Hey, what's going on, everybody? As you can see, we're going to get started. We're going to start a little bit early, but before we get started, just want to give a shout out to a couple of our sponsors here, or those who are affiliates with Superior Stands. Don't forget to get your Superior Stands. They are great guys. Go check them out. You got a nice little QR code right there. You can just click on that one. Also, Comic Shell, you have a 10% off using the promo code IzzyVerse. They help sponsor comic book fights, and I do got a fight on the way. I gotta find the time to have the time for it, to be completely honest with you. But I want to do some more comic book fights. But go check out Comic Shells. They got the best way of protecting your comic books while you're going out to conventions and things like that. I'm gonna be using it this week. And speaking of an item I use quite frequently, go check out Cover Price. I know if you're a comic book collector, if you buy comics, if you check your comics, I know you use Cover Price. You got to use Cover Price. They are by one of the best out there. And I could help you unlock 30 days of premium membership for just $1.99 for the first month with promo code IzzyVerse. So go check out Cover Price if you haven't. I know you're using it. Trust me, everybody uses Cover Price. If you don't use Cover Price, I don't know what's up with that. But it's time to start the show. And, you know, I like to start things off with something fun because we do this stuff all the time, right? Let's see here.
Witnessing the first ever battle between two living, breathing cartoon characters.
We should mention that this fight is sponsored by our good friends at the Whack-Me Corporation.
We're not fighting, but what the heck, might as well.
That's good. I like it. I've been trying to think of what I'm going to use for my own videos when I start to use them.
So, guys, it's me and Shane. We are here. I went to the last half hour. I had a half hour to just take a breather. But I spent all day of my day off today working on this week's show. So I'm almost certain there'll probably be some mistakes in there. There's gotta be. They usually are, right? But hopefully they're not. Maybe I did it. Maybe we got it. But let's go ahead. Go, Shane. Let's go say what's up to some people's in the chat. And Phil's Treehouse. Now, Phil may be the first one, but there's good reasons. Unfortunately, I had to redo the stream because StreamYard doesn't like it when you do the stream outside of StreamYard. So I did the stream in YouTube and I did all the good stuff that you want to add on it. And then StreamYard is like, I'm not using that. So I had to delete that to put a new one. So congrats to New York City Congestion Prices Initiative, reducing total traffic in the tolling zone by 7.5%, or roughly 43,000 cars per day in its first week compared to this time this year. Yeah, I'm not happy about that. So no.
Very informative.
Very. Apparently he's busy doing some work. What's up? Las Cruces, hello from New Mexico. We'll, Sir Cruces. All right. And of course, if you guys are watching from 1063 Comics, hi, everybody. We're over here in the IzzyVerseNYC as well. We'll be doing some fun stuff here and there. There are some goals there. Senor Phil. And yes, there we go. That's how you do it here. Hello from Nuevo Mexico. Dr. Von Hoot's comic from the Spiral Dimension. Evening, y'all. And in the words of Las Cruces, hoot. And in the words of Phil's Treehouse, hoot as well. I so miss Celebrity Deathmatch. So do I. What's up, Mighty Comics Collectibles? You guys do not watch Mighty Comic Book Collectibles. You're missing out. Lawrence is fantastic. He does a great show. He was on a stream with Swaguhas, and they were doing predictions, and 2 of those predictions already came true. They're not the greatest of predictions. They're the kind of predictions you don't want, like CGC pricing or somebody going belly up, like what we heard with Diamond. But predictions are predictions, so that's what they are, right? And we got Dave, well, all the way from Australia, Mike. What's going on? Oh, still only 35 cents. The name is Freeze. Learn it well, for it's the harbinger of your doom. Famed Mr. Freeze. I can't even finish this.
Minus 25 Celsius here.
Oh, it's cold. It's been snowing over here. And you're welcome, dude. I'm only saying the truth here. It snowed last night, so this morning I did take a moment to go downstairs because I wanted to move the car because my car is parked in front of the school, and it's not a school day here because it's MLK Day, but I don't want to move the car tomorrow, so I moved the car today, so I don't have to worry about it tomorrow. So that's how it is. I do a few accents here and there. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I want to remind everybody, we do have a goal for today. We have 10 super chat goals. And if you are part of the goals, you automatically get entered into the mystery box for this month in January. Well, it's not a mystery box as I'm telling you what it is, right? That doesn't make any sense. We got the Izzy's Rat Pack box. I got a set of comic books here that I'm going to add today as well. So we're going to put Deadpool Wolverine. Yep, that famous Frank Miller cover, just for the hell of it, just for funsies. You got DC Horror. Yep, that's right. DC Horror issue number 4. That insanely crazy Batman cover right there.
That's a good one.
All right, we'll put this one a little bit. We'll put these 3 in the back. Sure, why not? Let's do a preview. If you don't have the preview to Ultimate Wolverine number 1, well, it's in this pack. I'm putting it in this pack. Also, I'm also putting Ultimate Universe. Is it 1 year in? Why did they say 1 year in? Just say 1 year later, man. Make it easier on us, right? So 1 year in. That's the famous spoiler cover. We'll see more of this book later. Shazam versus Black Adam, issue number 7. Shazam number 7. We add that book in there. Okay, we got some fun books here. We added this book, Return of the Living Dead number 1, Mark Spears cover.
Love that cover.
All right. We also got a signed Scott Snyder All In Special #1. That's gonna be in the box. And Batman 457 if you like older books. So we got that in there. This week we're gonna add. We're adding 3 new books in this week. Actually, I got 4 books to be added this week. All right, so let me add them in the order I think be great. So I got What If Galactus Transforms Hulk. That's that Stephen Platt cover. So we're gonna add that into this box. We're adding Cable Love and Chrome #1 as well into the box. That's gonna be added to the box this week. And let's get some more Mark Spears, I guess. DC's versus Vampires World War V issue #6, the Mark Spears variant. And the big book of the day, I'm adding Ultimate Wolverine #1.
Awesome. That's a good one.
Yeah. And look at this. Okay, look at this stack already. Look at how big this stack has gotten. All for the channel members, the Rat Pack. What we'll do is I'm going to add a sketch if we hit our goal of 10. So, and it could be of any denomination, that doesn't matter. If we hit our goal of 10, I'm adding a sketch comic into this pile. And also, if you put it to the super chat, you automatically get included into that drawing as well, because it's kind of the same thing. Like, channel members pay for a monthly subscription. So if you put a super chat, that means you pay for a subscription. So you'll be added into it.
Makes sense.
Right? So that's all that I got for you for now. Wait a minute. 1 year in, you mean 1 in year? What? What's going on here? All right. That was a lot, man. That was 12 minutes long.
There's a lot going on.
12 minutes. Okay, guys, let's talk about what's hot this week. It's the Comic Heat Index. So, Shane, what a week it's been.
Yes, the Elusive Rivals cover. I really tried to get that one.
You did? You tried to get that one? I purposely didn't get it. I don't know why. I knew it was going to be hot. I knew people were going to go crazy for it because the order was still... It was a Storm book, so the print run couldn't have possibly be that big. I know Storm's still a popular character, but they're not buying Storms like that. No. And that Monsters cover, this Monsters, Mark Spears Monsters #3, another book that we'll talk a little bit more about that book, as well as we'll talk about Punisher and Fantastic Four, because those are 4. Notice there's somebody's missing from this list. Who could it possibly be?
There's no Jeff.
There's no Jeff in our list. But you know who else is missing?
Ain't well nothing yet. Hi. Name's Lobo. Please stop. You're making me blood.
He's gone. He's not on this list, guys. I'm just giving you a heads up. Spoiler alert, no Lobo in this list.
It's a fickle group.
That's, what I'm saying? But let's go ahead and start this off. And we're going to start it in a big way with the Punisher #1. This book came out in 1986 from Marvel Comics. $60 raw was the last recorded sale. Fair market value of this book is $48 at a raw, $190 at a 9.8. This is number 10 in cover price. Sales volume of this book is at 43%. The hype level is at a medium. Now, we talked a little bit before the stream. What is your take on this book and why this book is in this list?
Well, if there's any Daredevil fans and they watch the Born Again trailer, then you got to see him in his glory there. And I think that's what this is. I was actually looking for the #1 of his ongoing series, but I couldn't find it in my piles over there. But yeah, I think that's where it's coming from.
Yeah. This is his first solo series outside of magazine, because he does have a magazine series as well. So this is his first comic. You know what I mean? Great Mike Zeck cover. This is a phenomenal issue. 1 in 4 issue limited series, but it really wasn't. It was 5 issues. They changed it as they went along, but phenomenal Mike Zeck cover. We talked about this book a couple of weeks ago when we were doing Creator Spotlight. This is such a great book and such an awesome cover. One of my favorite covers.
Amazing cover for sure.
Let's go into number 9, and we're going to keep that trend of Daredevil alive with Daredevil 11. This is the one that came out in 2016, not to be mistaken with the original Daredevil 11. This is part of volume 2, I don't know, volume 2, volume 3, volume 20. I don't know how Marvel keeps tabs of these things anymore. We'll just go by the year. 2016, Marvel Comics. This is a $40 raw. That was the last recorded sales. The fair market value of this book is at $77 raw, while 9.8s are going for about $219. This book is on the trending list for Key Collector at number 4, number 8 in CBSI, and number 11 in Cover Price. The sales volume of this book has increased 27%, and the hype level is at a medium. This is the first appearance of Muse. What do you know about Muse?
I know that they appear first in this issue.
So Muse is a very, very interesting character. This is, first of all, I believe Muse is a mutant. If not, they do have a special power, and they have the ability to take people's blood and generate. And what he does, and this is why it's called Muse, is that he's an artist. So he kind of has that Hannibal Lecter vibes to it, but he takes the blood of his victims and he makes portraits from them. And this character is going to be in the Daredevil series.
I can't wait for that show because I love all those shows on Netflix except Iron Fist.
Yeah, Iron Fist. Yeah, that was a mishap.
It was okay. It wasn't great. Daredevil though was amazing. Yeah. Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, I liked all.
Jessica Jones was great, especially that first season of Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
Ooh, David Tennant. Oh man, that was a scary villain, and I think Muse is going to be the same thing.
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
Right. Let's go into our next book for number 8. Mark Spears Monsters number 3. This is the Bride double-sided exclusive variant for Bird City. I believe there's only limited to 500 copies of this book. This book is brand new, so it's not from 2014. It's actually from 2015. You see, I told you it was going to be a mishap somewhere. It's not that big of a mishap, though.
No, that's minor.
Yeah. From 2025 from Keen Spot, $110 at a 9.8 was the last recorded sale. Fair market value of this book's at $66, while 9.8 was that $110. This is only on Cover Price right now. The sales volume of this book is at 23%, and of course, the hype level of this book is at a high. This book has yet to be released, but pre-orders were coming in already for this book, and therefore it made the list.
We're getting closer and closer to where all those people that missed the boat have been able to order, like this guy. And we're going to see what happens when those books hit. But I love this. I love the scroll signature in this cover. I think it's hilarious. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he uses McFarlane's. It's an homage to McFarlane, right?
Yeah.
This cover is very interesting with the light blue. We normally talk about the vibrant, like royal blue and stuff like that, but this one's really, really vibrant with that blue he chose for this picture.
Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit different color scheme than he usually picks, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this one she just looks pissed.
Yeah.
She's like, what the hell are you looking at?
Why do people keep buying my covers?
Right. All right, so there you have it. Mark Spears Monsters #3, the Bride double-sided exclusive variant. This is for Bird City, so that's where you have to go to get this comic. I don't know if they still have any because they were limited to 500, so I don't know if all 500 are gone.
Oh,
But
probably.
let's go to #7, and that is Fantastic Four 280. This book came out in 1985 from Marvel Comics. $14 raw was the last recorded sale. Fair market value of this book is at $11 at raw, $141 and a 9.8. This is on the trendy list for CBSI at a #3. Now, what kicked this book up was that sales volume. There's still a lot of copies being sold, 129% sales volume in over the 30-day period, and the hype level is still high. Malice is not going anywhere right now.
Now, I forgot to ask my oldest if he actually has heard of that character, has seen them in there. So I'll have to remember to ask him for next week. But yeah, people just want that appearance, and it's a cool looking character. What can you say?
I will say this much. I do believe that the sales volume of this book is high because the book is so inexpensive right now.
Yeah.
So therefore, I could pick up the book for $10 to $15, not really worried about, how much I'm going to spend or I'm going to break the bank for this book. So that's what drives the price up for this book. It's the fact that it's at low cost and it still has some level of demand.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's take a look at #6. Ultimate Wolverine #1. This book came out last week from Marvel Comics. This book is now selling at $15. That was the last recorded sale. Fair market value of this book is at $11. 9.8s are already going for about $59. And it's #9 in cover price. Sales volume of this book is at 197%. Hype level right now, I'm going to say it's at a medium. Because I don't hear too much murmur about it. I honestly thought this book was going to perform the same way Absolute Batman did. And for some reason, it just didn't. And I don't understand why.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one because I've read it. It's good to read. I thought it was good. I thought the story was cool. There was interesting things that happened in it. And I definitely thought it was going to catch a little bit more. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm kind of, I'm not sure what happened there.
It could be that it's just, people are starting to pick it up. It's a pretty solid story. I wouldn't say it's a mind-blowing story, but I will say it was a good story.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. I enjoyed reading it. It was a quick read. And I think it has a lot of potential, especially with the story that they're telling us. And it's kind of like giving Wolverine, bringing him back to the roots that we love Wolverine. There's mystery behind him. We're not too sure what's his story, but we do know he's also the Winter Soldier. So take what you know from the Winter Soldier and put it with Wolverine. This is what you get, Ultimate Wolverine.
Yeah.
That's #6 in our list. Let's take a look at what's #5. There's that Mark Spears Monsters book. Mark Spears Monsters #1, 2024 for Keenspot. The Raw is going last sold for $275, while the fair market value of this book is at $263 Raw, $418 at a 9.8. This is #5 in CBSI. Sales volume is at 48%. The hype level is at a medium. This book is #5 because of two factors. It's still selling, and because of its high costs.
I can't even believe it. $275 for, a book that's so new. It's amazing. There's still interest out there for sure. Obviously, people are still buying it. It's going to be really interesting to see where this falls in the 30, 60, 90 day kind of rankings for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And it's because it's cover A, it doesn't demand as much as the Bridezilla cover, but still, it's might as well because we're talking about $263, $275, $400 for 9/8.
Yeah,
it's incredible the amount of money this book is demanding right now, and it's still selling with the sales volume.
Yeah, especially like the margin between the Raw and a 9/8 is not what you would think it would be. Like it's still real expensive for you to get a raw copy, even.
And especially with the raw copies, being that this is a new book, those raw copies are pretty much 9.8 contenders anyway. You know, they're not going to be 4.0s or 8s. They're going to be in the 9 ranges, right? That's the approach. So it's very interesting to say. Anyway, I'm going to take a moment to say what's up to some guys that just showed up. Kenneth Byrne, hi to everyone. Kenneth, how you doing, my man? Over at your channel, Nerdy Geek is saying what's up to you and me. What's going on, Nerdy Geek? Let's see here. Marvel and Disney announced over the weekend that all the Marvel Netflix shows are now canon in the... Yeah, I'm not surprised. They were dancing around the subject as well. It's all depending on where is it canon. That's really what it is. Yeah, you missed that one. In the tears, I'm sorry. Dumb green. I'm not going to say what you just said there. Oh, come on, Izzy. We all know you're looking at the cover, and it is in a for the... I'm on board. Let's see. His first appearance in the other titles. Yeah, Stole the Thunder. You think so? It was a cameo, really.
And I don't even think that book has gone up that much. Ultimate X-Men. I always forget 6 or 8.
Yeah. Ultimate. Well, that one, there's not much more information on who that character is, so we still don't know if that's him. I think what Phil's referring to is the Ultimate Universe book.
Yeah, right.
So that one is the one that he's probably referring to. Got this for $10. Good job there. All right, that's the chat, and let's take a look at what's number 4. Another Fantastic Four book. Fantastic Four 24/7. I want to say it that way. It just sounds better, right? Yeah. Fantastic Four 24/7, 1982, Marvel Comics. This book's at $12 raw is the last recorded sales. Fair market value of this book is at $5. It's $223.09.8. This was number 1 in Key Collector, number 4 in CBSI, number 5 in cover price. Sales volume of this book is at 49%. The hype level of this book is at a medium. Do you know why this book is at this list, Shane?
So I don't think it's this week, but when One World Under Doom starts, supposedly a character from this book, I don't know how heavy you want to get into spoilers, but is kind of tasked with assembling another team. And that's why that kind of leaked out, and that's why people are interested in this book.
And you're absolutely right. And it's a book that goes back to 1984. This features the first appearance of, and I'm gonna see if I can say his name properly. I probably won't. Christophe Bernard. Bernard?
Yeah, Bernard. I think
Bernard. Yep, Christophe Bernard, the adopted son of Dr. Doom. Now, why is a $5 book so important? Just like you said, this character is going to be a major player in the One Nation Under Doom storyline that's happening, and he is forming a new set of adventures that includes characters that we haven't seen, and very interesting. I know one of them is Onslaught, which I'm curious to see how they pulled that one off. But this book is hot, not for Marvel rivals, not because of upcoming Avengers movies or movies back. This movie is hot because of comics.
Yeah. And people were probably already kind of going through Fantastic Four books and different titles to look for cool Doom covers with all of the hype with him. And this one was already fitting that. I love this cover. I think it's great. And now all of a sudden it has that extra key significance that, might turn into something in the new series. But I would pick this book up if I found it for $12 in a heartbeat. I would do it.
Yeah. Well, it also looks like Doom's just going to crap on that house underneath too. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys in the chat, let me know. Is Doom wearing underwear underneath that skirt? Or is it a kilt? We never identified if it was a kilt or a skirt.
Or is he wearing armor underneath of that?
I think Doom likes to let the air in. All right, we'll cut that out for the. Yeah. All right, let's take a look at our book. Nerdy geek. Oh man, I hope so. Not for the sake of the people underneath that house. Okay. I'm pretty confident it's a dress. Confirmation. Okay, let's go into our number 3 book of the week, number 3 of the week, and that is Amazing Spider-Man 65, the Marvel Rivals variant. This book is brand new. It came out in 2025. $23 raw is the last recorded sale of this book. It's also the fair market value of this book, $85 at 9.8. It's number 10 on Key Collector and number 7 in cover price. The sales volume of this book is at 75% with a hype level of high. Man, Marvel Rivals just won't stop, do they?
It's a tough, act. Like, where do you sell this book? Because I don't have any, I'd like to say that it long term probably not going to hold its value because the games just change.
Yeah.
But if I did own multiple copies or a copy of each, I would be either tempted to send them in for grading or looking to probably sell them sooner rather than later.
Agreed. And I think this is one of those books that's a contender for Fast Track because of that reason. Fast Track is one of those things with CGC that you get the book in and they put you in front of the line. I don't know how fast is Fast Track, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
However, like you said, this book, its longevity isn't there, I think. But it is still a Spider-Man cover, and that could keep it a little bit there a little longer. Yeah. Spider-Man covers are still pretty popular. Okay. It's time to take a look at what's number 2 on our list, and that is Kanto, A Place Like Home, number 6. This is the Flops variant, a book that came out this year and for Dark Horse Comics. A raw is sold for $50, which makes it a fair market value of $55. This was number 2 on CBSI, number 1 in cover price. The sales volume of this book is at 38%, while the hype level of this book is at a high. What do you know about this book?
I can't wait to hear why this book is on this list, Izzy, because it's not an awesome cover. I don't know anything about the character. Like, I don't think that the cover is anything super special for me anyway. So,
so that is funny that you say that because it's about the cover. In fact, it's about the artist. So this is very similar to the Mark Spears approach to it, where this artist, his name is Flops. He does these images. This is pretty much supposed to be like a toy box or cereal box type of way of doing it, which we've seen before. But if you read it, it'll just say featuring incredible 5 points of articulation. So it's supposed to be like a toy box.
Yeah.
This artist is pretty popular within a niche, and Kanto has a niche following as well. It's a bit of a cult classic as well. So you can put those two together, and you have a book that's on demand. The question that I'm going to have is, how long will this book last? Will it have that same effect Mark Spears have, or will it just be on this list this week and then we'll never see it again in a couple of months? Until he does the next book that people are really excited for.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see with whatever the next one is that he does, if it kind of drives more interest to this one. But it just seems to me like Monsters is something I hadn't heard of before either. So, take that with a grain of salt. But I don't know anything about Kanto. I've never heard of this character before. So from that way, I don't have any interest in picking up the book. So I just don't know if it'll last.
Yeah. And like I said, there is a following for Kanto, maybe not to the same extent as Monsters because of Universal Monsters, but there is a group of people, I would say in the same way Bone was popular. If you remember Bone in the 90s. Sense. So, and then again, this artist Flops, he's a very popular artist within a niche group. So that's why this book is number 2. It's number 1 in cover price. So the book skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Right. but it couldn't beat the #1 book of the week, which last week we talked about it, and neither you or I had a chance to get it when we probably should have. And that is at #1, Storm #4, the Marvel Rivals variant. This book came out last week. It is last sold for $21 raw. Fair market value of this book is at $25. It is #1 in CBSI. It was #2 in cover price. The sales volume of this book is at 99%, and it's a hype level of high.
I was trying, like I would have paid probably $10 for it. And I tried, there's 3 or 4 shops in my area. And I was at a little comic show on the weekend on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I tried. I didn't even see a copy of this for any price.
I didn't get to go to a shop last week. I went somewhere else to get my books, so he didn't have a copy. However, this was one of those books that I knew it. The moment I saw it on League of Comic Geek, the moment I saw it on cover price, I knew this book was going to be hot. Did I think this book was going to be #1? No, I thought Ultimate Wolverine was going to be #1. This one was the sleeper. But not too much of a sleeper because it's still a Marvel Rivals cover.
Yeah.
And it has nothing. I'm sorry, guys. It has nothing to do with Storm. It has everything to do with that little logo that's in the top.
Yeah. And like Nerdy Geek said there, I did go to one of the shops I went to. They mentioned that they did get copies of it, but they were all like pre-ordered by people. So they didn't have any extra. And like, it just totally goes along with what you're saying. 2 weeks ago, the books came out. Everybody's like, oh, I got to have them. This one was last week. And here we are. No one could get it.
Mm-hmm. Here's the other thing that I want to take note of, because even though these books have not showed up in the top 10, be on the lookout for the Marvel versus Capcom covers. Because of Marvel Rivals, I think, my personal opinion, because of Marvel Rivals, Marvel Capcom versus Capcom covers are now getting some kind of momentum.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's like, oh, let's get this one too. And those books are starting to see some heat. They didn't make it to the top 10, but if we were to do a top 20, those books would be on this list. I can't do top 20s.
Yeah. If you were going into a comic shop and you're not really a comic shop person and you were asking for these books, if you were a smart comic store owner, you would say, but I have Capcom. That's a video game. You can grab these covers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So there you have it, guys. Storm #4, the Marvel Rivals variant at #1 this week. Tell me what your thoughts are. What do you think about the ranking system? Which books do you have from this list? Share your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for next week's ranking. I think there's another book coming in next week that's going to be in this list, and that's my personal opinion. We'll talk about that when we get to new comic books. Guys, thank you so much. Let's get out of the screen here and go back to normal. Let's see here what we got going on here. I almost had that one on lock on eBay, but got outbid on it with 1 minute left. Sold for $30. Wow. Oh man, I'm so pretty confident that's a skirt. My comic shop sold out. I got there 8 minutes after opening. It was sold out. Well, they probably had a small supply. That's one of the benefits I have when going to Midtown. Midtown usually has a large supply. Ooh, I did pre-order the Galactica with Jeff the Shark, though. We'll talk a little bit of. There's something to talk about that book.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Mm-hmm. There's something, like I said, we're when we get to new comics, we're definitely going to talk a little bit about
potential Jeff return. Okay,
there's a potential Jeff return, but there's one coming up this week that's I will have to get that book. I might have to go to Manhattan to get that book, even though I'm supposed to be working from home. My little sister's Marvel's Rivals nuts. She got that Jeff. See, I told you. You guys don't believe me. Jeff is huge. Jeff is a big deal. He's going to stay a big deal. I just know this. All right, but trust in Izzy. In Izzy, we trust. Woo. Okay, guys, it is now time to talk a little bit about. Let's see. We got Lord of Brooklyn, BK for life. What's up, my man? Okay, got that just in time. Anyway, we're going into 30-60-90 now, and we're gonna talk about some books. We talked a little bit about Ultimate Wolverine. We're gonna talk about an old book that we haven't seen in a while. What's going on with that? And we're gonna talk about a book that we see way too often. So, with that said, let's go ahead and do 30-60-90. Woohoo! Let's talk a little bit about these fun books that are in this list today. And what's really great now is that everything's condensed in the PowerPoint. So we're going to be looking at these figures. I did some updates to the PowerPoint. I hope you guys like them. Let me know what you think in the chat, in the comments, and we'll see how it goes. So let's go ahead and start up with the book from 30 days ago. That was Ultimate Universe 1 Year In, #1, the spoiler variant. First cameo appearance of Ultimate Wolverine. This book in December was $60 at a 9.8. That was the top weekly sale. Weekly units was 145 units. It was at a raw at $18 near mint, while graded was at a $57 at a 9.8. As of today, this book is $14. That was the last recorded sale. 96 copies have sold since that time period, since that 30-day period. The raws dropped to about $13 near mint, while the grades went up, but about $3 for $60. And that is the known high sale of this book, which was in December 7th, 2024. Is Ultimate Wolverine here or what?
You know, I think there was super amount of hype, obviously, before this book came out. And then just like you said earlier, with Ultimate Wolverine kind of not exploding the way that we expected, because we both thought that, the prices have kind of settled a bit. I would not hesitate to pick this book in a 9.8 out for that. To me, to have it already graded, locked in at a 9.8 without having to do it all myself, it's just, that's worth $60 to me, no problem.
Mm-hmm. For $60 for 9.8, that's probably the price you will pay for it anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, with shipping costs and everything that goes with that. It's still a solid book. This story is pretty good, even though he shows up towards the end. It's just like a page or two. He's like 2 pages in this book. It's the cover that everybody likes. It's his first technically comic book cover if you don't include the previous cover.
Right.
So $60 is a good price for this book right now. I do think the price of this book is going to continue. So when we get to the 60-day period, I am curious to see how things have changed since then. And usually 60-day period is really a bigger metric, I'll say, to see if something has gained its momentum. Where 30 days is still kind of fresh, but time has passed already.
Yeah, and we'll have a couple of issues of Ultimate Wolverine under our belt by the time that hits 60 days too, so that might affect it a bit.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a look at the book that was 60 days ago, and that is Forbidden Planet #1. This came out in 1992 for Innovation Comics. On November 18th, when it was #1, this book had a top weekly sale of $121 at 9.8. It sold during that time frame 47 units. Raws were going for $10, while gradeds were going for $80 at a 9.6. As of today, the last recorded sale of this book was $17 at a very fine. During the 60-day period, we only had 47 sales. However, raws have increased to $17 at a fine, while graded almost pretty much more than doubled its price at $191. However, at its height, and that's just 2 days before it became #1, 9.8 sold for $283. What's your take now, 60 days later?
So if you're searching for those pre-code horror, or you're into these sci-fi covers, I mean, you can't really go wrong with a $17 investment if you do grading and have the membership and all that stuff. If that's kind of your comic book cycle, to pick up a few of these books, send them in and roll the dice on it, because that is a huge. It's over 10 times, right? Your money back on it.
And I find it interesting that if you notice by the sales, 47 versus 47 weekly, it really didn't move. It didn't move. It didn't sell.
Yeah.
But the price increased for the most part, right? The raws increased by $7, while the graded more than doubled. So I find it interesting that the price of the book increases, but yet it didn't really sell.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it does have that classic sci-fi cover, but it is interesting that the price is kind of trending up, but the sales aren't tagging along with it. Might be a good time to try to grab it for that $17 if you can.
Also, a lot of dealers, a lot of people that sell comic books, they give you this expectation of very fine when in fact they may be more better than that. So, however, I've seen it the other way around as well too. But when I've made purchases online, I find the grades to be better than what's being told, which I'm happy.
Yeah, if you got buy from a really good place, when I sell stuff, I'll always underestimate it a bit so that there isn't any kind of conflict with the grades or anything like that.
All right, so Forbidden Planet, that was the 60-day period. Let's take a look at our last book from our 30, 60, 90. It's a book that we just don't stop talking about, and that's Absolute Batman #1. Again, a book that came out in 2024, DC Comics. On October 21st, this book was #1, and it was $101 at 9.8. That was the top weekly sales. The weekly units was 191 weekly units sold. The raws were going for $26 near mint, while grade comic books at 9.8 were going for $100. As of today, this book is fetching about $30. That was the last recorded value of this book. During this 90-day period, over 1,256 copies were sold, which made the book at $35 raw at $106 at 9.8. On December 21st, someone purchased this book at a 9.9 for $500. Of course, this is the book of 2024.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at sales numbers like that, to me, most people that read comics have this book. I would say that a lot of those sales are maybe people that have comics that don't read Batman decided to give it a try. But I think a lot of it is the spinning out of the comic world, like people outside of it that are like, oh, I keep hearing about this book. Whatever, I'll pick one up. I don't know. Just an unbelievable amount of sales.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not just saying that as a pun. You know what I mean? This book, when it came out, everybody was gunning for it. This book is still hot today. I think as of the last issue wasn't that great of an issue. I'm sorry. We ended up getting artwork that wasn't up to par to what Nick Dragotta was doing. I hope with issue 5 we get a better art and the story starts to pick up, and we'll see how this book lasts. I do believe it's worth the wait now. Wait on this book. Do not go crazy spending money on this book, because just look at how many books have sold already. This book is going to drop in value just because of the sheer number of books that exist.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So just relax. Read a digital copy if you need to read it.
Breathe.
Read a digital copy.
Everything's going to be okay, Izzy. It's all going to be okay.
Fine. I'm fine. I got my copies.
Everybody's going to be fine. Everybody in the chat, you'll all be fine. If you don't have a copy, it's okay. You'll get one eventually.
Right. Okay, let's take a look at the chat for a few minutes here. Nerdy Geek, jump on the Jeff train. Woohoo! There you go. Nerdy knows what I'm talking about. Till they finally kill. No, he's not going to die. You said I need Jeff Jaws. I have that. I may have another one. I don't know. I have to double check. I think I gave that away in a mystery box once.
Is that the Monsters one, or is it actually Jeff?
No, it's Jeff. It's Jeff, and he's about to eat a rubber ducky.
Okay.
It's a cool cover. 2 out of 3 Nerdy Geek. Which is the one you're missing? Is it the Forbidden Planet one? That's the one I'm assuming it is.
Yeah.
I have 2 of the medals on pre-order. Wow. Okay. Now I can go look for this one. I'm starting to get into pre-code horror and sci-fi covers. Nice. Okay. Everybody who wants one has one. Yeah. If you really wanted it. Crazy that before the book came out, a lot of people were making fun of this cover. That is true. That is so true. And you agree with that? And Joe's like, someone paid $500 for that comic in 9.9. Talk about fool being parted with his money. Well, 9.9 is still 9.9. You get a book at a 9.9, they usually sell that way. It's just how it is. I argue Ultimate Spider was better by if you got it on new con. You know what? I think there is something to compare the two off of now. Like, what is the 1 year numbers of Spider-Man versus the 1 year numbers of Absolute Batman? I think Absolute Batman leads in sheer volume.
So I just did a little update that I do every week, and I noticed that Ultimate Spider-Man #1, according to cover price anyway, was down to $70 from $110. So it did take a bit of a drop. I always wait to see a couple weeks to see if that sticks or if it bounces back in a couple of sales. Could be an outlier sale or something like that. But I agree. It'd be interesting to see, compare the Absolute and the Ultimate universes 1 year in.
Yeah. All right, guys. There you have it. That is 30, 60, 90. Tell me what you think. Did you like the way I changed it up a little bit so you can see the figures a little better? What do you think about the books? Do you have these books? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat. And that is that.
Yeah. Does everybody in the chat have Absolute Batman? I'm curious.
Just about as many of them have X-Men #1. You know what's funny? I'm trying to get a slab copy of X-Men #1. Oh no, you froze for a second.
Oh, just the 90s one.
Yeah, I want that. Actually I want the blue hologram one. That's a little hard to come across. If you want a book, that's the one I want.
Okay.
So let's remove this because we don't need that. Hey, look, Random Marines just showed up. I have all of the absolutes and I'm dropping them all after the first story arc ends. Wonder Woman has been really good. Superman's been on pace. I think Batman's the one that's fell off a little bit. That's what I think. And he has the second printings, and I'm just fine with it. All right. So before we move on to really what's everyone's favorite segment of the show, which is Creator Spotlight, I want to remind everybody that we are doing goals for today. If you leave a super chat of any size, you'll be entered into the monthly box. Also, if we get our goal of 10, I'm going to throw in a sketch in there as well. And I'm going to do a sketch comic book. And the winner will decide which comic book it will be. I'll give them a list of comic books that I have. And we'll do that for that. So we'll do that. That's for today's goals. We're going for a goal of 10. All right. So we got 24 people watching right now. So we did a poll. I hope Joe was able to do the poll. And let's take a look. Let me just take a quick peek at where the poll is today. Because unfortunately, when it comes to polls in YouTube, you cannot stop them. They go on to infinity. There's no way of stopping the polls.
Yeah,
However,
it's strange they do that.
You can't edit the polls either, unfortunately, either. So from a vote of 80 people voted, that's actually pretty good. We had the polls was for artists who also write, right? And that's what it was. I did the tempo. Stop for a minute. Hey, you said every time you tell me, was there a poll? I'm reminding you that the poll exists. I'm just doing a public service for you, Joe. By the way, your box is on its way. I hope you know that. Uh, so we did a poll of artists who also write. I was a little surprised at who ended up winning because I was gunning for one person. But the poll was between Frank Miller, John Byrne, Jim Starley, and Walter Simonson. All amazing artists, with the exception of some new stuff that some of them are doing. And all are great, iconic writers as well. So they do both. So I decided to use them for with 9%, Walter Simonson came in. All right. Walter Simonson really should get a little more love. 18%, Jim Starley, which I'm a little sad at that one. Personally, I wanted Jim Starley to win, but I understand. Frank Miller came in second place with 30%. Nobody wanted to talk about this book? You didn't want us to talk about this one?
We could just show all his new covers.
Yeah, the whole curator spotlight was like, let me show you this thing. All right. But the winner with 44% of the votes, and someone I'm very happy to say we're going to do a creative spotlight for, is, you have it, it's John Byrne. So we're going to do a creative spotlight on John Byrne today. That's actually pretty exciting. Let's go ahead and get that creative spotlight ready. Shane, I keep saying I'm going to make them smaller and less books. And then I find myself just keep making more and more slides. I thought we hit the marker with Neil Adams last week. But no, en contraire. John Byrne has a little bit more. But before I even go into the bio... Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, there's just so many titles that he's touched. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. With John Byrne, we'll talk a little bit about his biography a little. We'll do his bio in a few minutes, seconds really. He has a hand in recreating characters. So he was Ultimate Spider-Man. He was Absolute Batman before that was even a thing. Now, he was very successful with some, not so much with others. But he's also famous for doing the X-Men alongside Chris Claremont. We'll talk about that today because there is a lot of that going on. And he's just, he's a great artist and writer, but he's also very controversial, just like Neil Adams is as well. He doesn't do conventions anymore. He's not a big fan of conventions. He has his opinion on certain things, which we're not going to talk about here, that a lot of people don't agree with as well. But we're going to be looking at his really his timeline of artwork, from his very first all the way to something as recent as I could find. So let's go ahead and do his bio. So John Byrne is a legendary comic book writer and artist who reshaped Marvel's X-Men with iconic arcs like the Dark Phoenix Saga and Days of Future Past, co-creating characters such as Kitty Pryde and Emma Frost. He transformed Fantastic Four with character-driven storytelling, introducing She-Hulk to the team and pioneering fourth wall breaking humor in the sensational She-Hulk. At DC, Byrne modernized Superman with the Man of Steel and redefined Wonder Woman, introducing Casey Sandsmark as the second Wonder Girl. A pioneer of creator-owned projects like Next Men, Byrne's influence on the comic book industry is unparalleled. In 2015, he was inducted into the Will Eisner Award Hall of Fame for his lasting impact on the medium. Note, he was inducted alongside Chris Claremont, which I could only imagine what that was like. You can find his work. He does. Look at the type. Remember I said there's a typo? We're going to find one. There it is. You can't find it at the Neil Adams. That's not his Instagram handle. But you could, and he doesn't have social. He doesn't do social. So there are fan pages for his artwork and stuff like that. So you can definitely see that. But if you want to really look at his work, you want to go to byrnerobotics.com. That is his website. Yeah, I looked it up too. I was like, oh, that's the official website. So we'll talk about a lot of those things as well. Lord of Brooklyn, he knows what I'm talking about. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at some of his early work, and then we'll go into his more famous work. Starting with his first work, E-Man #6 from 1975 from Charlton Comics. High sale of this book is at $120 at 9.6, and that was at April 15, 2021 that it was sold. Last recorded sale was $4. Fair market value of this book is $6, while a 7.0 goes for about $24. This issue contains the first professional comic book work of John Byrne in the Rogue 2000 story. That was no lady. I feel like I gotta say it with some attitude. That was no lady.
Yeah.
So another Charleston comic. What's up with Charleston? They had a little thing where they got superstar artists before they became famous.
Yeah, they were the only game in town, it looks like, for new people.
What's your thoughts on E-Man? I've seen E-Man comic books before in the past.
The logo looks familiar to me, so I might have come across them. I don't remember this cover specifically, though. But again, $4 for first work. Go ahead, take my money.
Yeah, right. Yeah, apparently Charlton Comics at that time, they just kept cramming up new people all the time. And then Marvel and DC. It was kind of like it was the indies, of course, but it was definitely in a time where Marvel and DC were looking at this company like, these guys got something going on, and we'll latch onto them. All right, let's take a look at our next book. And this is his first Marvel, which is Giant Size Dracula #5 in 1975. High sale of this book was $200, and that was on October 16, 2021. Last recorded sale of this book was only $5. Fair market value of this book is $19 as a fine and $18 at a 7.5. This is considered his first published artwork for Marvel Comics.
It's pretty amazing. Now, I don't know, is it the cover or is it an interior?
He did interior work.
Another easy book another inexpensive book to pick up. I don't know how easy it is to find.
Yeah, this is probably one of those books that if you go to a convention or if you go online, you'll probably end up finding it. But I'm with you. It may not be so easy. The good news about books like this is that if you find it, chances are that dealer doesn't know why you're taking it, which is a benefit for the buyer.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're a dealer watching this show and you're like, oh, yeah, I got to take note of this. I got to take note of this. And that's fine. But in all fairness, dealers, they don't get a chance to really look at their material in that way because they have to sell a certain amount. So they're unable to really decide, hey, this is the first John Byrne, this is first Neil Adams, this is first Claremont. Where who would have known Giant Size Dracula was his first Marvel book?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Now we're going to get to some more hotter books, and that's Marvel Premiere 25. This came out in 1975. This had a high sale of $300. However, last recorded sale of this book was $9. Fair market value of this book is $5. $110 at 9.6. This is his first artwork with Iron Fist by John Byrne. I'm looking at the comment by Lord of Brooklyn. The dealer hurt you.
But did he charge him more? That's what I want to know.
Anyway, with that said, and wait, I gotta give credit to E-Man, not Rogue Rog. Oh, not Rogue Rog 2000, but short for Roger. Oh, okay. Thank you for catching that for me, Jay Murray. Okay, let's go back to this book here. This is his first Iron Fist, and Iron Fist will eventually become an important character for John Byrne, especially with some of the books that he's going to be a part of. It's also worth noting that Iron Fist was also a book that someone else was working on alongside John Byrne. Do you know who it is?
No.
A certain gentleman by the name of Chris Claremont. So that's the importance. That's the importance here. It's Iron Fist, man. Iron Fist is such a cool character in the 70s. You know, those Kung Fu characters in the 70s were always fun. You know, like Shang-Chi, Masters of Kung Fu. All that stuff was really, really cool in that time period. And this is his first artwork with Iron Fist. Let's move on to our next book in this list, and that is Iron Fist issue number 8. This is not Marvel premiere. This is Iron Fist. Keep that in mind. This came out in 1976 from Marvel Comics. The highest sale of this book is at $450 at a 9.2, and that was in March of 2023. Last recorded sales value was $5, while fair market value of this book is at $11 fine, $477 at a 9.8. This is an origin of Iron Fist retold. More importantly, this is considered an iconic John Byrne cover.
Yeah, definitely. I love that cover. Love the perspective of it. The logo, all of it. It's good.
Yeah, the foreshadowing. That fist is punching right at you. It's a good cover, and you know, $11. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Marvel Team Up 53. This came out in 1976 from Marvel Comics. The highest sale of this book is at $800 at 9.6, and that was in December of 2023. The last recorded sale was $10 at a very good, and this fair market value for this book is $2. However, a 9.6 goes for $190. Why is it important? It's the first time John Byrne does the X-Men.
I guarantee you that almost every shop that has this book does not have it noted that that's the case for this.
Major key.
Yeah.
Major. And what's interesting to know is that there are people that know this, because if there's a high sale of $800 for this book, that means you know something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? However, the raw copies don't seem to perform the same way as the graded copies. Now, interesting to say the least.
Yeah, this is another example of if you could find a copy for $10 and get it graded, and it's a good copy. And there's good copies of this out there because it's recent enough for that. And you get a great grade, you're in the monies.
Yeah. Now, my curiosity is, does CGC take a note of that in the grader's notes? That's something that's worth noting. That's something that I would put, like, hey, make sure this is the first artwork of John Byrne on X-Men.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious too. It's better for us as collectors if they don't, until mine anyway.
Yeah, right. Okay. I just want to say hi to Alex. What's going on? Welcome to the channel. All right, let's take a look at our next book here, and that is right now the biggest book in this list thus far.
Yeah.
Iron Fist 14. This came out in 1977 for Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is at $6,000 at a 9.8. That was in December of 2021. Last recorded sale of this book was $295 at a 7.5. Fair market value of this book is at $326 fine, while a 9.2 is going for $668. This is the first appearance of Sabretooth, just this, minor villain.
Yeah, just minor.
Just minor, slightly minor. What's your thoughts on Sabretooth?
I think he's a great character. I think they've kind of, he's kind of had that run just like Magneto almost, where he's been, really bad, but then gets redeemed somehow, even though the crazy things he does.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's leading a key team of people, and then he's bad again. I think it's a great character, and I love reading Sabretooth stories.
Yeah, Sabretooth to me is a character that should never be redeemable with the heinous things he does.
I agree.
Especially when he does to Wolverine on his birthday.
Yes.
Every time it's Wolverine's birthday, it's time to kill somebody.
Yeah.
so that with Sabretooth, I think he's such a great villain in the same way as Joker is, right? You don't want Joker to be the good guy.
Yeah.
You want him to be the bad guy. And the same thing could be said about Sabretooth. I don't like a heroic Sabretooth. I'm sorry, I just don't. Right. Sabretooth I like is a bastard.
Yeah.
So John Byrne and Chris Claremont co-created Sabretooth, and he debuts in Iron Fist 14. Let's go with our next book here. And now we're talking about some X-Men, and that's Uncanny X-Men 108. This book came out in 1977 from Marvel. The high sale of this book was $1,375 at a 9.8. That was in April of 2021. The last recorded sale of this book was just $25. Fair market value of this book is at $54 and a very fine, while 9.6 is going for about $355. And as noted, this is the very first John Byrne artwork on an X-Men title.
I love this book. I think that I have from 106 up, like in sequence. So as when I looked at this title, I'm like, oh, good. I already have this one. I have to try to find it.
It's kind of a difficult cover to see. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to see, but that's Storm. Like you don't normally see. It's hard to like immediately catch that Storm in the image. But when you see it, after you see it, you're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. It is interesting to note, that this was the book that really started it all, right? David Crockham, Len Wein, they started this whole new renaissance for the X-Men. Chris Claremont jumps in, takes over, and then starts working with Dave Crockham. But it wasn't until John Byrne shows up that we ended up getting magic. And the X-Men, even though this book came out in the 70s, the X-Men really became what they were in the 80s. In the 80s is when we got the X-Men. Here was just like the starting of it all. You know what I mean? The beginning stages.
That's where I started picking it up, was during this run, and then just kind of went back and grabbed them again after I got right back into collecting. And I remember reading the Dark Phoenix stories and the all the other ones, and just being like amazed. I loved it.
Yeah, and we're gonna get to that when we get to it later. But this is such a cool way of looking at it, right? Let's take a look at our next book here. Here's another book that's in the list that a lot of people are not familiar with, and that's Marvel Team Up 65. So Marvel Team Up was a book that Claremont and John Byrne worked a lot in. This was one of those books. In 1978, this book was made. The high sale of this book was $1,600 at a 9.8, and that was in March of 2022. Last recorded sale was $40 at a 9.0. Fair market value of this book is about $36 fine, while $139 for 9.6. This marks the first U.S. publication of Captain Britain, the first appearance of Captain Britain. But it also features the first cameo appearance of Arcade, a character who, as of right now, we haven't really seen him, in the spotlight. But I honestly believe Arcade is one of those characters that we will see in the MCU it just makes sense. He's a gamer.
Yeah.
How could you not have touched that yet?
Yeah. They'll have in the boardroom, they're having meetings and, oh, Marvel Rivals comics are selling. What do we got? Well, we got this arcade guy. Throw him in a movie, quick.
They could do so much cool things with Arcade. Arcade's one of those characters that I personally love. Because he fits the mode of today's fan. Like he would be on YouTube playing video games today. But worst of all, he's doing evil things as a result. So you gotta see him do that. You know? But this one's more important because Cat and Bread shows up for the first time in a US comic book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next book is Iron Man 118. This came out in 1978 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book was at $900 at 9.8, which I think is very underappreciated, to be completely honest. April of 2023. Last recorded sale of this book was $3. Fair market value, $32 at a fine, while $138 at a 9.6. This is the first appearance of James Rhodey Rhodes, who will later become Iron Fist. Quite shocking, to say the least, that this book is so low.
$3? I can't even believe it. For first Rhodes?
First Rhodey, $900 for 9.8? I don't think this is a minor key. I see D is in the house. What's up, D? I don't think this is a minor key. Not with what we've been doing with Rhodes. You know, he's supposed to get his own series. Would you say Rhodey's a minor key?
I don't think so. I mean, it's tough because, I mean, look at what the character has done. You know, he's got armor. He's a military officer. He's been in the movies. I don't know. That ratchets it up a couple of notches, I'd say.
So Lords of Brooklyn is saying, if they make a War Machine movie, it will rise. Okay. They are technically making one. So there are plans for Armor Wars, in which Rhodey is the main character. Now, the plan was it to be a TV series, and now there's word that's supposed to become a movie. I don't know if it's gonna ever happen, but if it does, that $900 won't last. That book will then break into 4 figures. But if you get this book at $32, hold on tight. Because only time will tell. Now, I will admit the MCU have not treated Rhodey's well, but he's been there since day one.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a comparable, like we talked about Sabretooth, say. I would put Rhodey on the same kind of first appearance key status as Sabretooth.
Mm-hmm.
Personally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's a major character. He even though he is a supporting character to Iron Man, but he is a major character. You know, he has important. He becomes War Machine, becomes an Avenger. He's part of the SHIELD program. He's a major player in my view. Okay, let's take a look at our next book. Back to Marvel Team Up 79. This book came out in 1978 from Marvel Comics. The high of this book is at $300 at 9.8, and that was in November of 2023. Last recorded sale of this book is $11. Fair market value of this book is $20, while 9.8 is going for $185. This is Spider-Man and Red Sonja. But what's important to note in this story is that Mary Jane gets the spirit of Red Sonja in this book. I remember this book as a kid. And I remember having it. I remember drawing that image of Red Sonja.
I read this title card and I'm like, Mary Jane Watson as Red Sonja. Is that a typo? I'm like, what? I have to find this book now.
Yep. I like, and we're gonna get to a book later, but these Marvel team up books have a special place in my heart. This is one of those books where it's like, as a kid, when I first started collecting comic books, this was one of the very first comic books I remember having. Where I don't have it anymore, but I'm pretty sure I could pick it up at a very, very inexpensive price. But it's worth noting, Mary Jane's Red Sonja. I'm like, do you think Spider-Man had problems with that?
No.
I'm just saying. You got it. Redhead goddess in the flesh. And it's, again, well, there is a Spider-Man Red Sonja book that came out much later, in the 2000s, where even Michael Turner did a cover for it. But a lot of people don't realize that this was their first meeting 30 years earlier.
It's cool.
Our next book here, we're going back to the X-Men, and that's Uncanny X-Men 120. This book is at 170. This book came out in 1979 from Marvel Comics. The highest sale of this book is at $10,600 at a 9.8. That was in June of 2021. The last recorded sale of this book was $11. $55 for a fine, $572 for a 9.6 at fair market value. This is the first appearance of the team known as Alpha Flight, and it's the first appearance of Sasquatch, Aurora, Northstar, Shaman, and Snowbird. Come on, you're the Canadian boy here. Tell me how important Alpha Flight is.
I have this book in a 9.2. And it's like Alpha Flight #1. It's a inexpensive book to pick up. Look at the numbers on this book. $11. And even if you got a 9.6, it's black all the way around, which is, obviously more difficult to get a 9.8.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you bought 10 of them, that's $100. You send them in, I don't know. And you're supporting Canada. Support Canada.
I just find it so interesting, just comparing the two numbers, where you have a high sale of $10,000 and you had a last recorded sale of $11. Granted, I don't know what's the grade on that $11 book. That's why it doesn't have a grade next to it. It was sold as with no grade, so we don't know the condition of that book. But it is one hell of a comparison.
Yeah. And that 9.8, that was pandemic times too. So it'd be interesting to see a more recent sale for sure. But still, even 9.6, I don't know. The numbers there seem to line up that if you've got a bunch of copies of this,
yeah,
it might be worth grading them.
Well, the comparison between a 9.8 and 9.6 is $500.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Okay. Let's take a look at our next book. And here's another one that really shocked me when I saw it, because it didn't hit me until afterwards. And that's Marvel Premiere 47. This book came out in 1979 from Marvel Comics. This has a high sale of $2,428 at 9.8. And that was in October 2021. Last recorded sale of this book was $50. Fair market value of this book was $85, very fine, while $165 at a 9.4. The first appearance of Ant-Man 2, Scott Lang, as well as the first appearance of Cassie Lang. Now, John Byrne did not do the cover, but he did do the interiors of this book. And this is the first appearance of Ant-Man, the one that is played by Paul Rudd.
Yeah, I grabbed this book during the pandemic, so paid way too much for it. I'm happy I own it. I'm happy that it was on this list because I did not know that it was a John Byrne book at the time that I bought it.
I didn't know that either until I looked it up, and I was like, John Byrne did Ant-Man 2?
Yeah. And again, going back to Rhodey, I would put like Scott Lang's Ant-Man kind of in that level of kind of key status.
Mhm.
I don't know. I like the cover too. I think it's a good cover. And, Ant-Man, besides the third movie there, the character itself, though, I've really enjoyed in the MCU.
Well, I would have to put, Scott Lang slightly above Rhodey now, today, only because of the movies. Because the movies decided to focus on Scott Lang as opposed to Hank Pym. Even though you and I grew up with Hank Pym being Ant-Man and Scott Lang was like, he's the other guy, right?
Yeah.
But the movies decided to make Scott Lang the Ant-Man everybody else knows and loves. So he does fall above War Machine, Rhodey, because he has his own movie. He has a set of movies, in fact, and he's been in multiple projects. But I'm with you. During that time, he was that secondary character. Today, he's more of a major player in the MCU as well as in the comics. But John Byrne had a hand in his creation, which is quite shocking to me. Yeah. So Joe's like, chaos in Canada, blame the USA. Chaos in the USA, blame Canada.
Right? What is that?
I don't know. Maybe it's something going. I'm happy with the ones I have before Izzy the Informer getting there. Hey, we just informed the news. For those of you who don't know, if you go to the marketplace and Cover Price, there are books there that we mentioned that are now getting love. So I'm just saying, you might want to pay attention before someone else watches the video. I send these things to Shane all the time. Like, hey Shane, look what's in the marketplace right now.
It always makes me laugh. It's awesome.
It's like somebody was paying attention to what we were saying. All right, let's take a look at our next book. Fantastic Four 209, 1979 from Marvel Comics. The highest sale of this book was $350 at 9.8. That was in February of 2024, almost a year ago. Last recorded sale of this book was $50. Fair market value of this book is at $21 at the fine, $84 at a 9.6. This is the first appearance of Herbie the Robot, but is also John Byrne's first artwork on Fantastic Four. Which of the two is bigger?
I don't know, but is Herbie going to be in Marvel Rivals? That's what we need to find out.
Well, we don't know if he probably will eventually land there. He is in the movie. And this book did spike up a couple of months ago in the trending list when we saw posters that he was in the movie. So,
yeah.
It's no longer in the list, but if I picked this book up about a year ago, I picked this book up for like $10. I was like, oh, look what book is here. I'm like, oh, I'll give you $10. And they're like, I'll take it. So I have my copy for $10. And look at it, it's going for 20 now. So pretty good investment there. Yeah. There's an unpublished Byrne Austin Ammon that absolutely should have been this cover. Maybe. Thank you, Jay Murray. Okay. All right. So what do you think about his iconic run in Fantastic Four in comparison to X-Men?
So when I was collecting, I never really got into the Fantastic Four. I was more into X-Men and Titans. So I don't know a lot about his run on Fantastic Four. I really didn't start to pick it up and notice John Byrne stuff until we get to our later stuff we're going to get to in a bit. So this I don't know as much about.
His run on Fantastic Four was interesting and we'll talk more about this as we get to the X-Men books, is that him and Chris, they were, like I said earlier, they were magic together. But they were also like two brothers that were rivals, right? So they have this brotherly love, but at the same time they have this rivalry on each other. And there's times they just couldn't deal with each other. And from what I remember, Fantastic Four was Marvel's way of saying, look, here's a book that you could start writing with, because that's the thing with John. John had a passion for writing too. You know, he wasn't just an artist. He was a writer. And when he did in X-Men, he was able to plot with Chris, but Chris was steering the ship. And there were times they wouldn't agree on things. Kind of like Jack and Stan.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same thing, right?
Yep.
So this gave him an opportunity really to spread his wings on a book. Was it as successful as X-Men? Of course it wasn't, especially at that time. However, as we'll see, as we continue to see in these books, that was a monumental series, an iconic series. We're not gonna touch all the books. I just couldn't, like, we talk about Malice. He wrote that story. He drew that story. We're not going to talk about Malice. We're not going to talk about the other Doom books. There's just too much to talk about. But all those stories are coming back, and people are going back to his run. That I am very happy to see.
Yeah.
And just like Las Cruces says, Byrne's run on Fantastic Four is underrated. I totally agree. But it's also very affordable.
Yes.
So there you have it, Fantastic Four 209. Let's go to our next book. And that is Uncanny X-Men 129, 1980. Highest sale of this book is 6,600 at the 9.8. And that was in May of 2021. The last recorded sale of this book was $80. Fair market value of this book is at $150, while 9.6 are going for $420. The key significance of this book, it has a couple of first appearances from Kitty Pryde, Emma Frost. We also haven't mentioned the Hellfire Club is here. And it also starts the Dark Phoenix saga.
Just an awesome book. I mean, when you start at, say, the start of his run, almost every issue has something important happen in it.
Oh, yeah. Like this run, this Dark Phoenix run, we're not going to touch all the books, but practically every single book in that run has a key significance to it.
Yeah.
That's how important the Dark Phoenix saga was. That every single issue was important. Here's another thing that I have to share with you. I have a copy of this book. I did not know what this book was when I saw it. And the copy I have is a banged up copy. It's even missing a page here. It's missing a cover. There's a page. I don't even remember where I got it. But when I saw it, I was like, after I figured out what it was, I was like, what am I doing? I have this book in my collection. Where this book came from? So I'm happy to say I do have this book in my collection. But like I said, it's a banged up copy. So, but I'm happy to say I have one.
Yeah. Mine's definitely not a 9.8 or 9.8 candidate.
Yeah.
But
mine
it's
is probably
still
not even a 5. Okay. All right, let's go to our next book, and that is
like I
my
said,
heart hurts.
the next issue.
The very next issue, 1980, Uncanny X-Men 130. The high sale of this book was at 2,109.8. That was in October of 2023. Last recorded sale of this book was $74. Fair market value of this book is $72 and very fine, while $310 for 9.6. This is the first appearance, as you can't tell by the cover, of Dazzler. It's also the first appearance of Sebastian Shaw, but no one's talking about him. Let's talk about Dazzler.
Yeah, I love the trade dress. I wonder if that's, was his decision or somebody else's or Chris's or whoever.
Neither. This cover is done by John Romita Jr.
Yeah, but I wonder if he decided, like, if Romita decided to put the lights around the X-Men or not, and just doing that. And I can't think of a book that during that Deadpool lead up was more hyped up or a character than Dazzler. It was just everybody was running around in a fever.
You're telling me? And speaking of everyone in a fever, Comic Caps Collectible, what's going on? We talked a lot about this during last year when we were talking about books with a lot of hype. Do they have their very risk-taking books? And unfortunately, this one didn't live up to the hype. Even when everybody was like, oh, yeah, let's be honest, Taylor Swift. Everybody wanted Taylor Swift to be Dazzler. I think the day will happen. My personal opinion is I think the day will happen. So, but not now. This is not the time.
Yeah.
You know, but um, what do you mean? You know what I'm talking about. Taylor Swift fever. It was just, it was one of those books, man, that just, it was always on the top 10 list. It was always hot. Everybody was waiting. When Deadpool Wolverine came out, we were there waiting with anticipation, even when they were telling us she's not in the movie, she's not in the movie, she's not in the movie. We like, now you lying. You guys lie all the time, right? Which is true. They do lie all the time.
They'd say she's not in the movie, and then they release a picture of the director and her walking around.
Yeah, and the Super Bowl and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So they're doing all that stuff. And, you know, we find out they were telling the truth. She's not in the movie. You know, and they don't even mention her in the movie. It's not even a mention of Taylor Swift. There's not a mention of Dazzler. None of that's happening here. So it's what we call an epic fail.
Still a classic book with the classic cover that is an important part of the run and a key issue for sure. So despite all the movie shenanigans, I think the FOMO hurt Dazzler 1 more than it hurt this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it still demands some good money. I'll admit to that. Yeah. But you're talking about a book that's now well past its hype, unfortunately. Hopefully, we'll get Dazzler sooner or later. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at our next book. Whew. Now, remember when I said every single book in that run was important, but I just couldn't do them all. I had to do this one, which is Uncanny X-Men 133. This book came out in 1980 from Marvel Comics. The highest sale of this book was 2,309.8, and that was September 2023. Last recorded sale was $45. Fair market value of this book is $87. $325 for 9.6. This is part 5 of the Phoenix Saga. However, this is the first time we get Wolverine solo on the cover with all the minions from the Hellfire Club. It's also the first time that we confirm Wolverine's healing factor. This is the book that really solidified Wolverine.
I love this book, and this is another one that when I picked it up, didn't know anything about any of that. It was just another number in the run that I needed to pick up, and I'm glad I did it all those years ago.
Yeah. It's a book when at first glance you don't really know, but then when you find out what this book is very important because, like I said, Wolverine is the most popular X-Men. I'm sorry if you feel differently. He is. The numbers prove it. And this is the first time he gets the limelight. And then we find out how badass Wolverine really is in this book. Mm-hmm. She's coming, just not as Taylor. Who knows? Maybe they'll work something. All right. Let's talk about our next book in this list. We talked last week about Neil Adams. And this week, we're talking about the other book, and that's Uncanny X-Men 135. This book came out in 1980 from Marvel Comics. Highest sale of this book is at $780 and 9.8. That was in August of 2021. Last recorded sale of this book is $48. Fair market value of this book is $52 at very fine, $220 at a 9.6. This is part 7 of the Dark Phoenix Saga. This is the first appearance of Senator Robert Kelly, which is also important to note. Minor key in that way, but it's a major key because this is paying homage to Neil Adams from that book we talked about last week. But this time, John Byrne is homaging him with the Phoenix, and he does this. He likes doing homages. We'll see another homage later.
I love this cover.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Mm-hmm. I love the crushing of the trade dress. Mm-hmm. It's just total classic cover. Awesome work for sure.
It is a great book. Just seeing it. Look at her eyes, man. You could tell something's not right.
Yeah. He got that across excellently for sure.
Exactly. Great cover, great book. Let's go to our next book. And this is the final part of the Dark Phoenix saga with Uncanny X-Men 137, 1980 from Marvel Comics. The highest sale of this book was $7,945. That was in a 9.9, and that happened in March of 2022. The last recorded sale of this book was $88. Fair market value of this book is $40 and $144 for a 9.6. This is an iconic art cover. Cover art by John Byrne, but it also features the death of Jean Grey. So we think.
Right. Nothing stays still in comics.
No, we'll get to that later. All right. Tell me what's your thoughts of this story, especially here.
I liked, obviously, the Dark Phoenix saga. This cover, like, it doesn't stand out as much to me as other ones, but I love that whole run, this whole storyline, and it's one of the ones that actually I have to go back and reread again, like all together at once, because I kind of read it as I picked up different parts. But I do remember really enjoying this issue for sure.
Yeah, I have some memories of this book as well. So back then, when I was collecting comics as a kid, we would trade comics. This was one of those books I would constantly be trading in and out in my collection. So I had a friend who said, "Oh," and he made the book so important. I really didn't know how important it was at that time. I was too young to really know that. And he would like, "Oh, I'll give you this book for 5 of your other books."
Yeah.
Because he understood the importance of the book where I didn't. So I said, "Okay, which 5 do you want?" And he's picking up books that are like probably even more important at that time. And I remember it, and I always remember how important this book was at that. This is the first book in my collection that I ever looked at as a major key. At growing up as a collector as a kid, this was that first key in my. Even though I had other books that were bigger keys before that, but this is the first one that I identify as being a key and having significant impact.
Yeah.
That was a pretty damn good cover, man. Says a lot. Okay, let's go to our next book here. And here's something that stood out that I didn't see coming. And that's the Untold Legend of Batman #1. This book came out in 1980 for DC Comics. The highest sale of this book is at $300 at 9.2, and that was December 2021. Last recorded sale of this book was $88. Fair market value of this book is $3, while a 9.6 are fetching for $26. This is the first DC comic done by John Byrne.
It would be very interesting to see, like you said in one of the last ones, does it note that on the CGC slab for $26 for a 9.6?
Notice the difference. The $26 for a 9.6, but it sold for $300 at a 9.2.
Yeah.
But again, that was in the hype.
Yep.
But still, John Byrne's first DC published work. And it took a long time because you could tell by this list, he was a big Marvel guy.
Yeah.
So before the 80s, he didn't touch DC. He was strictly Marvel. And his first book just happens to be really a throwaway book. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Who would have guessed it, Especially, this is coming off of the Dark Phoenix saga. So that means he's an established artist.
Yeah, and people know his name from that. And maybe some people at the time bought this book because of that, but then that didn't last very long, I don't think, because I don't ever remember seeing this book even.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it. Okay, let's go to our next book here. Going back to Marvel. So they did Dark Phoenix Saga. Right? They had a little couple of books here and there afterwards. Some important books, but then we get Uncanny X-Men 141. Came out in 1981 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book is $1,950 at 9.8. That was in April of 2021. Last recorded sale of this book was $118. Fair market value of this book is $115 at a very fine and $324 at a 9.6. This is part 1 of the 2-part story, Days of Future Past. This features the first team appearance of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which also happens to be the first appearance of Mystique, Destiny, Pyro, Avalanche, and the Blob, and nothing could stop him. First appearance of the second Phoenix, Rachel Summers, which happens to be the daughter of Scott and Jean from this alternate reality.
If you can keep track of all that, I loved Rachel. I loved that character. I still do. I remember reading these books when they came out and just being like, what is her story? What's going on? Because, time travel in comics at this point, it wasn't as common as it is now. It just was, I just thought it was so cool. And I really liked that Rachel character.
Yeah, I do. And it's kind of a shame that people don't give her as much love as she probably should deserve. Especially with her history, all the stuff that she was a part of.
Yeah.
However, let's talk about this story for a minute. This story was adapted into a movie, and it's probably one of the best movies in the X-Men series that we have there. And this always has an effect in the X-Men universe. So the X-Men universe, even up to now, they're fearful of this occasion happening.
Yep.
So it had that effect. This is one of those stories that had that effect.
Yeah, and I agree with you about the movie. I love the scenes where they're fighting off the Sentinels, where they cut back to that. I just think that's great. And I don't know, since we're talking about it, have you ever watched the Rogue cut of that movie?
I did, but I don't remember much of it. I have it. I actually have a copy of it.
Yeah, it's really good too, and it gives you kind of a little bit different perspective. But you're right, all the mutant stories are all about them not having a horrific future because of this book.
This is the book that kind of like we talk about Dark Phoenix being probably the greatest story, right? This comes in as a very, very close second, but I think this has more impact than Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Let's talk about the other issue, which is X-Men 142. This came out the very following month, so it's 1981. High sale of this book is $1,239 at 9.8. That came out in April 2021. That was when it was sold. Last recorded sale of this book was $55. Fair market value of this book is $33 at a fine and $414 at 9.8. It's part 2, but it also features the death of Wolverine, Colossus, and Storm in this reality. So the issue wasn't lying to you. Yeah. Everyone dies.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the storytelling in this time, just so great because, again, it wasn't as common for, that everybody just expected the characters came back to life and you didn't know about all the alternate realities and time and all that stuff. So it's really cool. I loved it.
Yeah. And just looking at that cover, we talked about something similar to this last week, where it's looking at a newsstand and going to your local newsstand to get your comic books, and you see that cover. It's 1981. You go to 7-Eleven, and there it is, just waiting for you. Man.
Yep. And you've got your limited amount of money. You've got to pick. You've got to decide. It's not like now for a lot of us who are very fortunate that can kind of decide on our own which ones we're getting. But back then it was like a decision that had to be made. Am I getting this one or am I getting this one? And that's why those older covers are so great, because they wanted your money.
Yeah. They work hard for it, and this was a good example of that. Great cover, one of my favorites. Let's take a look at our next book. I always like throwing in deep cuts, and here's your deep cut: The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones #1. This came out in 1982 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book was at $300 and 9.8. Apparently, someone did grade this book. In March of 2022. Last recorded sale of this book is $5. Fair market value of this book is $5, while 9.8 is going for $106. Of course, it's Indiana Jones, done by John Byrne. It's not the first Indiana Jones book we talked about before on this show either, too.
I have issue 2 of this.
Oh, really?
Not this one, yeah.
It's just so cool seeing that at this time they were doing these kinds of books, even though these books were like, again, I mentioned throwaway books. These are books that no one really bought. They were just, companies saying, hey, can you do a book for us to promote the movie?
Yeah. And
that's what they were.
And Marvel wasn't, what they are today. So anytime anybody asked them to do something, I think they just said yes.
Yeah, they made money off of it. So
yeah.
Fun book. Yeah, our next book is The Thing #1. This came out in 1983 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is at $300 and 9.8, and that was in January of 2022, so 2 years ago. Last recorded sale of this book was $55 and 9.2. Fair market value of this book is $17 and very fine, $189 and 9.8. The key significance of this book is the First Thing solo headlining series. It is not the First Thing solo series, but it's his first title with his name on the trade dress. And it was John Byrne that did the work.
Yeah, this is one that I've never read, and I don't even know if I've seen this one before. Like I said, I wasn't huge into the Fantastic Four until really Secret Wars, and then that kind of introduced me to them.
Yeah, and this is one of those books that, again, you could find at a very inexpensive price. You find out that it's his Thing's first book, really, where he doesn't have to say Marvel 2-in-1 or anything like that. It's the First Thing comic book. It took that long for him to get his own comic book. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's crazy.
20 years it took him to get his own solo book.
Yeah.
They didn't have that much confidence in him, unfortunately.
No, I don't think so.
All right, let's go to our next book, and that is one that I think should be dear to your heart, and that's Alpha Flight #1, 1983 from Marvel Comics. High sale value of this book is $575 and 9.8. That was in September 2021. Last recorded sale of this book was $10. Fair market value of this book is $13 and near mint, $48 and 9.6. This features the first appearance of the other members of Alpha Flight, which includes Thundra, Puck, Marina, Wildheart, Diamond Little, what a name, and Wild Child. Talk to me about Alpha Flight.
Well, I remember reading Alpha Flight really because of the X-Men books, because they were in there, which we talked about earlier. And I can honestly say, I don't think I own this one because I just kind of missed the boat on it. I have a bunch of different issues of Alpha Flight, but not #1. And it's just something that they do have cool characters in them. I like the design of some of the costumes. And it's just always interesting how they got to get in there, that they're from Canada. I think that's cool.
Yeah, that's always that has to be the big point of talking to you, right? Well, John Byrne is from Canada, so he wanted to have a Canadian book. So there you have it.
Yeah.
But Alpha Flight, as the years, people are starting to get more and more love for Alpha Flight, even though they will always consider like a second level team. But there's this love for Alpha Flight that I think wasn't there before. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of cool that they're starting to become more and more like Canada's Avengers, more than, second fiddle to the X-Men.
Yeah, for sure. And I always look at it like when I'm trying to figure out, what characters they might use next in Marvel or wherever, like what about characters here? Like, are they easy to do on screen? Do they take a lot of effects? And there's some characters that they could pull from here that easily transfer to, TV or movies for sure.
I think the hardest one would probably be Puck, because Puck is a fan favorite.
Yeah.
And you got to get him right without making it insulting, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to our next book in our list. And that is Fantastic Four 265. This came out in 1984 from Marvel Comics. Highest sale of this book was $175 and 9.8. That was in May of 2023. Last recorded sale of this book was $6. Fair market value of this book is $5. $125 and 9.8. Excuse me. This is when She-Hulk joined the Fantastic Four. And it's important to note, John Byrne and She-Hulk are going to be doing big things together very soon.
Definitely. And was this just after? I'm trying to remember if this was just before or just after Secret Wars. I think this is a little bit before.
This is actually, she joins the team in Secret Wars.
Yeah.
This is the book that she becomes part of the team.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Now, this was important because the Thing is now out of the team. I forgot what was the reason why the Thing was out. I don't remember what was. I'm sure people will know in the chat. But she joins the team. It becomes a big deal. We got another female character in the Fantastic Four. So now we got two female characters, two female leads. But it's John Byrne writing She-Hulk, and he ends up falling in love with this character. He really does. As he starts writing her, she's a little different here than when much later when he starts writing her more properly in the way we know. Oh, there you go. I know someone knew it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because Ben Grimm stay behind. Okay, there you go. As I was saying, this is something where John Byrne, he started writing this character and he started doing things with this character he probably wouldn't have been able to do with the Thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and there is a famous cover. It comes of several issues later where she's standing in Stan Lee. I actually thought that was the first book that she joined the team, but it turned out it was this one. That was about 10 issues later, so it was $275. Here's another one, Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man 101. This came out in 1985 in Marvel Comics. Highest sale of this book was $750 and 9.8. Last recorded sale of this book was $32. Fair market value of this book is $31, very fine. $152 and 9.6. All this book is an iconic black costume Spider-Man cover done by John Byrne. You wouldn't know it because it's playing with negative space, and does it do a great job.
Oh, amazing. When you see this cover, if it's out anywhere, it completely stands out. It is such a well-designed and well-done cover.
Mm-hmm. So good. And, it is a John Byrne, but you wouldn't know it. It's one of those books that it's like, because it's a negative space and he's toying with negative space here, that you just don't know. But it's an early black costumes, cover.
Yeah.
And it's also iconic. Like this is $750 just because of a cover. Yeah. That's why it's sold, because of a cover. There's nothing inside the book that has value. It's just a cover by. Mm-hmm. Okay. Our next book is Fantastic Four 286. This is done in 1984 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book was $180 at a 9.8, and that was in May of 2021. Last recorded sale of this book was $2. Fair market value of this book is $3 and fine, $89 at a 9.8. This marks the return of Jean Grey, and it's the setup to X Factor, which is the original X-Men team. Why is this book here? Because there was a mandate of bringing her back, and John Byrne was bringing her back. Something that Chris did not want.
Yeah, and I had no idea that happened in this book. So, as I usually say, on Wednesday, I will be looking for this book.
Yeah, this is one of those books that people seek, because there's more to the story than that's what's in the story. This is one of those books, and that's why it's here, that the behind the scenes is more interesting than the actual story. where Chris Claremont didn't want to bring her back. That's why they did the whole Madeline Price story. But then Marvel wanted to bring her back because they were going to do X Factor, and so John Byrne ended up with task of bringing her back, and she came back in this book, which was really odd at the time. But John Byrne is notorious with the Dark Phoenix saga because he did the art, so that's where it makes sense. Very controversial return too. With like people, I don't think people liked it too much.
Yeah, and I wonder if Claremont got any money from this type of book where he didn't have any say, but it's one of the characters he co-created. I wonder what his arrangement at the time was with Marvel.
I can tell you a little bit about that. He didn't make anything out of it because he had a hand in turning her into Dark Phoenix. However, if you notice, it's Jean Grey that's returning.
And she's like a phoenix.
She's like a phoenix, but she's not the Phoenix. So
I can see him being mad about that.
He didn't care. He didn't want to bring her back anyway.
Yeah.
But but it just one of those stories where, yeah, we're bringing her back. Why? Because we want her back.
Yeah.
That's
because of cash.
Yeah. Right. Here's another one that's important. Marvel graphic novel number 18, The Sensational She-Hulk. This came out in 1985 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is at $350 at a 9.8, and that was November 2021. Last recorded sale of this book was $25. Fair market value of this book is $24 and near mint, $200 and 9.6. This is John Byrne's first solo She-Hulk story.
I've never seen this book before, so that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All black around too. Man, that's a tough 9.8 to get.
It's also a larger book because it's considered one of the graphic novels. Even though this is his first solo book with She-Hulk, she's not the She-Hulk we know. She's not there yet.
Yeah.
But he is toying around with it. So, but this was the first book, and again, look at the title. It says The Sensational She-Hulk. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Right. We got Reef, The Sea Forever. I remember. Yeah. Wow. I never seen that graphic novel. Yep, it's out there. It's a graphic novel, so it went directly to the comic book shops. It didn't go to the newsstands. So at 85, if you had a comic book shop, then you saw it. If you didn't have one, you didn't see it. That's how that works with this book. But like I said, he started getting this affinity for She-Hulk. It became one of his, his characters. Let's go to our next book. Look, I got a duplicate. We got to take that one out. Our next book is Superman, the Man of Steel, number 1, 1986 for DC Comics. The high sale of this book is at $198 at 9.8. Last recorded sale of this book is $3. Fair market value of this book is $4, $105 for 9.8. This is the first appearance and origin of post-crisis Superman. It's also the first appearance of Kalex, the artificial intelligence of the Fortress of Solitude. Now, I have a question for you, Shane, to see if you know the answer.
Okay.
Why is this book so inexpensive?
Well, I would say because there's another one of this one. But I've never understood why this series is not more prominent, to be honest, because this is what got me into Superman. When this came out, the hype was back then before internet. Everybody was talking about this book, it seemed.
Just the fact that you said that it answers the question. They printed a lot. So this does have a high print run to it. The book sold, and it sold a lot. This book was significant because this is the book that came out of Crisis on Infinite Earths. And John Byrne was tasked to retell the story of Superman. But change it up, depower him, because he was getting depowered, and give us a fresh take on Superman. Remember I mentioned this earlier? John Byrne did Ultimate Universe, Absolute Universe before everybody else did. The difference was he was allowed to do it within the universe.
Yeah.
And this was his take on a completely new, a completely different Superman that we knew beforehand. It was still Superman, but like I said, he was depowered. We have a different type of story. He is the last son of Krypton. So there is no Supergirl. There's no Crypto. There's none of that stuff going on here. Also, he also reinvented Lex Luthor to be more of a billionaire tycoon who kind of looks like some guy who was inaugurated not that long ago.
Yeah. These covers are just classic too for the series. You talk about the absolute and the ultimate thing. I mean, look, it's just like an ultimate cover, except for it's reversed.
Yeah.
And, you know, very similar styling there, but I love the consistency in the covers from 1 to 6. I just think they're really good.
Yep. And it's worth noting, there was a special collector's edition, and this was a cover done by Byrne as well. This is considered by many to be the first intentional variant cover to be sold only in comic book stores. This one came out at the same time, of course, and it has a high sale of 250 and 9.8, recorded sale of $8, fair market value is $2, very fine, 125 and 9.8. Just like the other one, there's a high print count as well. But this is by many to be the very first variant. This started it all.
Yeah, and I have this cover. I don't think I have the other issue one, but I have this one. Because again, it's back in the day where you had to pick one. But I love this cover too. The trade dress was like almost like a foil effect on it, which was really cool and a little bit strange for DC to do. But yeah, I love this series, and I thought it was a great Superman story myself.
Oh, it is a fantastic series. Like, I think John Byrne, he did everything right when he wrote it, where he says, okay, we like this, we don't need this, we don't need that. You know, he just took the fluff off, as they say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But good stuff. Let's see. I want to just say hi to Aurelius, who just jumped in. Hey. And yeah, they printed many of them. Same. Yeah, the hype. I don't know if Superman 22 is on this list. I can't answer that. Because when we get to this point, you start noticing it's like I gotta move faster. Yeah, and to Reese's point, Byrne respected the history.
Oh yeah, that's a great way to put it, for sure.
It was also kind of like, what is it about the movie that we like that we want to keep, and what is it about other things that we might want to see differently? Like, I think the biggest change really was, I think, Lex Luthor, but Luthor was changed in a way that made sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that he respected history. That I think is what some of the newer writers, why things aren't going as well as they could, because Byrne here just took Superman and didn't inject any of his own stuff really into it, but just made the story different and better, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm with you. Giordano's inks are great over Byrne. Byrne has some great inkers attached to him. Okay, let's take a look at our next book in our list. Okay, I'll explain this one in a minute. Marvel Tales 206. This book came out in 1987 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book is at $48 and 9.6, and that was September 20th. Last recorded sale of this book is $6. Fair market value of this book is $5 at a fine, $48.96. This is a reprint of Marvel Team Up issue number 70. It is a story by Chris Claremont and John Byrne, features the living monolith. It also features Havoc in it, and it also has an all-new Spider-Ham backstory. All right, Shane, I'm gonna ask you a question, and you're gonna be very honest with me here. Why is this book in this list?
Because you love Spider-Ham.
Yes, I do love Spider-Ham, but it's not because of Spider-Ham.
Okay.
You want to take another stab at it?
No, I have no idea then, unless it's the monolith.
Yeah, right. This is my very first comic book.
Oh, there you go. That's great.
So the very first comic book I ever picked up was this book. And this is the one that started the collection for me.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have it, comic still?
Oh, I still have it. It looks like garbage right now because
that's the best.
It is at most of 1.8. But I did manage to pick up the team up book. So I picked up the team up book. I showed it to Chris Claremont. He looked at me with his face like, okay, but it does have a special place in my heart. I figured I have to put this in this list.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to let you know, this is the book that started. It's a fun story. And it's like one of those stories like, what the hell's going on with this story? You got the living monolith, you got Havoc, you got Thor. I don't know what they were thinking when they did this story.
Yeah.
It's just one of those crazy stories. It's a fun story. It's just pure comic books. And what a great cover. So this is a reprint of Team Up 70. And if you see Team Up 70, it's the same cover. They just changed the trade dress a little bit here and there.
And the Spider-Ham story is not in Team Up 70 then?
No. So the Spider-Ham story is a new story. It's a fun story too. It's so funny. I got to get a 9.8. I did get another copy of the book, but you know what? I was thinking about slabbing the original and just say, screw it. Give me the grade just give me any grade. I don't care, right? I just wanted slab just to preserve it.
It's worth it just for that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Enough of reminiscing nostalgia. Let's go to our next book. Here's a very important book because a lot of people don't know about the importance of this book. Marvel Comics Presents 18. This book came out in 1988 from Marvel Comics. High sale value of this book is $189 and 9.8. That was in July of 2023. Last recorded sale of this book was $5. The fair market value of this book is $6 and $132 and 9.6. This is the introduction of She-Hulk speaking to the reader, or what we call breaking the fourth wall. In fact, it is in the title. Fourth all new features. For all new features. It is the first book that breaks the fourth wall with She-Hulk.
This is another one I'm putting it on my list to look for on Wednesday because I guarantee that it's not noted on the slab or on anything.
It might be noted on the slab, but most people don't know about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not an easy book to find like physically at a comic shop because is it under She-Hulk? Is it under M? Is it under Marvel Presents?
It's under Marvel Comics Presents. I'm almost certain of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is interesting because Marvel Comics Presents, most people recognize it with Wolverine, especially with the Weapon X story.
Yeah.
Right? So Marvel Comics Presents did have stories that feature other characters. However, none of them had that same impact as the Wolverine stories. So it ended up being a secondary comic for Wolverine, even though it had 4 other comic stories in it. The other thing that's worth noting about Marvel Comics Present that some people don't know is that it was ad-free. It didn't have ads.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that was something that's I always notice about Marvel Comics Presents. It was just no ads on the book. So, good book to have. Mm-hmm. Another good book to have is Sensational She-Hulk #1. This came out in 1989 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book is $408, 9.8. That was in October of 2021. Last recorded sale, $1. Fair market value.
I can get it for a loony.
Fair market value of this book is at $12 near mint. 9.8 goes for $108. This is the introduction of She-Hulk speaking to the reader or breaking the fourth wall. So Marvel Comics Present is the first book that does it. But what Marvel Comics Presents that's so fun is that it's doing it to promote this book.
That's awesome.
And I remember picking this book up. This is one of my early books too. I remember picking this up. Now, this book had a higher price tag than the other books. So this was considered one of the more of the premier books. So in 89, Marvel and DC for that matter, they were deciding to do new books and they called them the prestige books.
Yeah.
Where the quality of paper were better. As I mentioned, some of them didn't have ads or things like that. And even some of them were like for mature audiences in some cases. This was just a comic book that was, I don't know if it had ads or not. I can't remember about the ads part, but it was definitely it was better quality paper than the traditional newsprint style paper. I remember seeing this and seeing this cover and was blown away at the amount of detail that this issue has. This is one of those covers, and I'm not saying anything bad about John Byrne prior, but he took more time doing this than previous books because he absolutely believed in this story.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Like, again, it's the combination of the pink background, the detail in the character, that there's text on the cover, which, was more common back then, but still not very common. And I love this cover. It just stands out. I have two of these books. So
yeah, I have two. I have the original one that I have, and I ended up getting another copy about 2 years ago. It's amazing how low this book has gotten. Like, again, last sale was $1, but
yeah,
it was at its height, it was $400, and now it's about $100.
That's the reverse TV effect.
People were not big fans of the TV show. I kind of enjoyed it. I understood why people didn't like it, but I did enjoy it because I knew what I was getting in it.
Yeah, I think that if you were a fan of this run of She-Hulk, this is kind of where the show was trying to get to, I think, from watching it. Because I'm like you, I did watch it, and I enjoyed parts of it. There was parts that I was like I would question, but again, it's supposed to kind of have that. I think it was supposed to be a little zany and crazy, which is kind of what this book was.
Yeah, and I don't know how many people knew that going in. Like, they promoted it as if it was kind of like a comedy series, right?
Yeah.
And we got some really fun moments and stuff. Like the Daredevil episode was fun. The Wong episode was fun. I wasn't big of a fan of what they did to Abomination. I think that was kind of an abomination. But at the same time, it had the elements of what this comic book was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not a fan of I'm really not that much of a fan of the Dan Slott run because I feel like John Byrne's run is so much better.
Yeah, I enjoyed this era for sure.
Okay. Our next book, I mentioned this before about homages. He loves doing homages. West Coast Avengers 45. This came out in 1989. Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book was $1,500 at 9.8. That was in February 2021. The boom.
Yeah.
Last recorded sale was $200 at a 9.8. What a difference!
Oh, yeah.
Fair market value of this book is $17 near mint, $129 at 9.6. This is the first appearance of the White Vision, and it's also an homage to Avengers 57. Before you even start saying anything, let's talk about this high sale versus this recorded sale. What happened to this book?
Well, I think it was a combination of the TV show hit, the pandemic was there, then nothing came from it. They didn't act fast enough on WandaVision. And I really believe that this is not where this book is going to be. This will spike again because whatever they do with the Vision when he comes back will cause all those same people to come back to this book. So I own 2 copies of this, and I'm fine with owning them.
Yeah, but just looking at that comparison, though, a drop of $1,300. This book was 4 figures, and now it's $200.
Yeah,
that's insane to me to see that kind of drop in 4 years span. With 4 years to a comic book, this is the epitome of spec book.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And that's when all the specking was at its height, right? Like people saw that character on TV, and Marvel was, had nothing faltering them at that point. And they were like, well, this is going to be a sure thing. This is the next character. He's going to be in all this stuff. And then nothing happened. So
yeah. And that was a shame at that time where we were getting all this stuff. There was no payback. There was no payoffs for anything. We have these end credits where characters showing up. To this day, we don't even know what's the story with those characters. That was a shame. Wow. This was the biggest shock of them all.
Yeah, that's a crazy drop.
Another book here is an iconic book. It's Wolverine 18. This came out in 1989 from Marvel Comics. Highest sale of this book is $384 at 9.8. That was in March of 2022. Last recorded sale of this book was $16. Fair market value of this book is $18, and 9.8s go for $158. All this is an iconic Wolverine cover by John Byrne. Similar to the Vision book, this book had a dramatic decrease in sale. Dramatic.
Yeah. If you're a Wolverine fan, either you already have this book in your collection or you want to have it in your collection. It's just an awesome cover for sure.
And that's all it is, right? There's nothing else about it has importance. So we talked about keys. This is a cover by. This is a cover book. It looks great though. The background, the orangey red background to the brown costume, which is my favorite costume of Wolverine. I love this costume more than any other costume.
Yeah.
It's just so good. All right, let's take a look at our next book. Uncanny X-Men 282. This came out in 1991 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is $515 at 9.8, and that was in April of 2021. Last recorded sale of this book was $45 at a 9.0, and the fair market value of this book is $15, while 9.8s are going for about $87. This is the first cover and cameo appearance of Bishop. It is worth noting that John Byrne has credit for writing this story and not doing the art. The art is done by Walt Spotasio.
$87 for 9.8 of a character. Again, like we'll go along the same lines of Rhodey there, but I think Bishop's a fairly important X-Men. So if you're hunting, first appearances that you can afford and a 9.8 at that for less than $100, why not?
And Bishop's one of those characters. He's the rare situation where he is a black character in the X-Men, and X-Men don't really have a lot of black characters. They were known as an international set of characters, right? So they had characters from different countries. Storm being the quintessential black character for that team, right? Because at the 70s and 80s, that's kind of how they did things, right?
Yeah.
When you had in the cartoons, in the comic books, they will always have, okay, we need to have at least one black character. We need to have one woman. We need to have, there's a powerhouse character. So there was a formula that they had to follow back then. Bishop shows up. He's a black character from the future. He's bringing along some information about a traitor who we find out who ends up becoming ends up becoming Xavier, where everybody thought it was Gambit. And this is he makes his first appearance here, but in a cameo. But they made a bigger deal because of the cover. He makes the cover appearance, which it's like Red Hulk all over again, right?
Yeah.
Where issue 1 is the cover, he makes a cameo in the first issue, but in this one he makes a cameo, I think, like in the last page. But it was a black character in the X-Men that, let's be honest, there really aren't that many.
Yeah, and an important character too. Like, he's still around, still has a role in a lot of the books. So
yeah. Here's another book that came out in 1995 for DC Comics, is Wonder Woman 101. Highest sale of this book is $110 at 9.8. That was in November of 2019. Last recorded sale of this book was $50 at 9.8. Fair market value of this book is $3. Fair market value is $50 or 9.8. This is John Byrne's iconic run on Wonder Woman. It didn't have the same impact as Superman did, right? But it's important to note that when he was doing this, people were picking up the book. And boy, does Wonder Woman have a lot of hair.
yeah. Yeah. I think I actually had this book in my hand this weekend.
Really?
Because, my friend was there and she's kind of looking for different Wonder Woman books. And we definitely saw a bunch of the Byrne run, because I remember saying, oh, I can tell already, that's John Byrne art. But I didn't know until I saw this that was his first one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on John Byrne's Wonder Woman run?
I liked it. I mean, I'll always prefer the Perez run myself personally, just because, like you, that was kind of my, that's where I started to get into it. I saw his work on, the Titans, and that drew me into Wonder Woman because he was redoing it. And so I kind of have a early memory of reading that book and just learning so much from it.
Yeah. And at this point, he wasn't relaunching Wonder Woman because it's 101, but it was like a soft reboot of the character. That's what it was. It wasn't Perez. He did a relaunch of it because it was part of post-crisis. This was more like, okay, sales are slacking. Let's put a major writer artist in this book, and that's where we get Wonder Woman. He does give us the first appearance of Cassie, who will eventually become Wonder Girl. We're not going to talk about that here in next couple of books, but I would say it wasn't as an impact as the Superman, but it was a good time period. It was 95, so comics was at a point that they were struggling and they were trying to come up with all sorts of gimmicks at that time.
Yep.
This was him trying his best to give a solid Wonder Woman story, and you know what? They were solid. They weren't changing events, but it was solid storytelling.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, let's go to our next book. Superman, the Wedding Album. This book came out in 1996 for DC Comics. Last recorded highest sale of this book is $150 at 9.8. That was in January 2024. Last recorded sales value of this book was $5. Fair market value of this book is $5 near mint, $148 at a 9.8. This is the marriage of Superman and Lois Lane. Interior art depict a number of past Superman creators attending the wedding, which was officiated by Jerry Siegel. I see a little cut off there. We'll fix that in post.
This one, I never got this book. I don't know why I missed it. That's right around the time when I was kind of leaving school and trying to find work. So that might have been budgetary reasons. But I never picked up this book. So I've never actually looked at it.
So, excuse me here. So it's been a long day. But, so here's my question. Do you think it was the right move getting them married?
Yes, I think so. I think it's like, you can have the same, we talk about it a lot with Spider-Man stuff and Mary Jane, but I think you can have everything that you want because you have Superboy, you have younger characters that can be struggling with that stuff for more of a kid angle readers. And you can have more kind of grown-up stuff that they deal with when they're in a relationship and still having to be a superhero. So I don't think it takes anything away from the character. I think it just adds to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is funny because when we talk about Spider-Man, some people debate who's Spider-Man's love. Is it Mary Jane? Is it Gwen Stacy? I think for the most part, most people pick Mary Jane, of course. Superman doesn't have that. There is no love triangle with Superman. It's like Lois Lane is his girl.
Yeah.
That is that. Right? But I think what makes the Superman Lois Lane dynamic interesting is it is a love triangle. But the difference here, it's a love triangle between Clark, Superman, and Lois Lane, even though Clark and Superman are the same person.
Yeah.
So there's that struggle there, which made it for interesting storytelling. The fact that she eventually finds out who he is, I think is the right move. And then eventually we do get the wedding. And now as of today, I think people have accepted it more. I think Superman and Lois is more acceptable than Mary Jane and Spider-Man, because they kind of don't mind Superman getting older.
Right. Yeah, that's strange that that's kind of that way. But yeah, I do agree with that, though, for sure. And especially in the early stages of their kind of relationship, it was definitely that triangle you're talking about, which did make for good stories.
It made for fun stories, too. Like, everybody else is seeing it, but you guys aren't.
Yeah.
Right. There is a white cover as well for this book. I didn't put it in there because I think we want to focus more on John Byrne than the actual book. But there is a white cover. It goes for about the same value as well. The book in itself, high print run, because it was the 90s. They printed. There's tons of books out there, so it's very affordable to get. But it's a cool book to have. A lot of creators. John Byrne gets tasked with the cover, which is kudos for him. All right, before I move on, I got to say what's up to my boy Black Spiders. What's up? I like wedding covers, just like he likes turtles. All right, let's go to our next book. Here's one that I forgot existed. Batman and Captain America. This came out in 1996 for DC and Marvel. High sale of this book is at $60, and that was in March of 2023. Last recorded sale of this book was $15. Fair market value of this book is $20. There are no slabs recorded in sales. And of course, this is a DC Marvel crossover event featuring Batman and Captain America, done by John Byrne.
Another one I'm going to have to look for. I did not know about this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot about this book. Like, honestly, completely forgot about this book. I may have this book. I don't even know. So this is still a possibility for me. But I like that John Byrne tackled two characters that he's normally not known for doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even though he had a run on Avengers. Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, go.
No. So, he had a run on Avengers, but what he did, he had a run on West Coast Avengers. And then he worked on Superman. So they said, you want to do Batman, Captain America, two characters that you normally don't do? He's like, let's go for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this book is included in the recent kind of crossover omnibus that they did that includes all the amalgam stuff.
It's quite possibly it is. But it is a thick book. So I think it's like a 64-pager. And it is considered an Elseworld story. So that's another thing worth note, that it has that Elseworld story logo in the bottom. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go to our next book, and that is we're reaching the end of our list. We're getting very, very close. The Amazing Spider-Man #1. This came out in 1998 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book is $131.09.8, and that was in November of 2023. Last recorded sale of this book was $10. Fair market value of this book is $10 at very fine, and it is $61 at a 9.8. This is the very first premiere issue of the second series of Spider-Man. So this relaunched Amazing Spider-Man, and not to the same extent of Man of Steel, unfortunately.
No.
Mm-hmm.
This I remember this coming out, and I couldn't figure out why they were restarting the book, because again, like, it's 90s. And it just seems so strange to me. It's like, why would you restart it? It's at like whatever issue it was at. I don't remember the one before 5 something or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it definitely didn't have the same impact.
Mm-hmm. It was just, again, it was another cash grab, right? Let's make a first issue. And John Byrne, let's be honest, at this time, he wasn't really doing a lot of things that people were gravitating towards. So even though he had name recognition, it was almost like he was past his prime at this time, where people weren't as interested as they were before.
Right.
And it just didn't work. I can't tell you the stories. I have this book and I even can't tell you what the story's about.
Yeah, same.
Mm-hmm. So some hits, some misses. Right?
It's gonna happen.
Right. And then we have JLA 94. This came out in 2004 for DC Comics. The high sale of this book was $15. The last recorded sale of this book is $3. Fair market value of this book is $3. There are no slabs that were sewed that we have recorded. This marks Chris Claremont and John Byrne teaming up with Jerry Orwell to make the JLA. I remember this, and I do have this. This is Chris Claremont and John Byrne working together again. I don't even know how the relationship worked, to tell you the truth. I never bothered to ask Chris about that. But they're doing JLA. We have something here, but it didn't come up with, nothing came out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think I have this one either. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't my thing in 2004. I was definitely more focused on Marvel then.
Yeah, I was I just got married. So I just got married, and yeah, I got it. I can't tell you anything about it. Especially since the run that it was coming from a really good run beforehand. But it didn't move the needle. It was just one of you know what I'm saying?
Did he do the cover of that one?
He did the cover.
I mean, it's a great cover. It's a very well done cover for sure.
Why aren't you watching Raw? Dude, why are you watching me then? Papa Wheelie, it's on Netflix. That means I could always go back to it. I'm not worried. Besides, I could fast forward. So it was great to hear that, and of course DC, they banked on the fact that we got Chris Claremont and John Byrne back together again, right? But the truth is, you don't want them back together on JLA. You want them back together on X-Men.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was a nice try. It was a nice attempt. It just didn't pay off. All right. So there you have it. Creator Spotlight, John Byrne. Wow, that was a long one.
Stretch my back.
I know, right? So overall, what are your thoughts on John Byrne's history in comics? Which books do you love? Which books do you thought were misses? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think about John Byrne and the Creator Spotlight, and look forward to our next Creator Spotlight. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about, but we'll talk about somebody, and I hope it won't be 45 slides long either. All right, let's get back to this. Whew. We're almost there. We're almost at 2 hours and 38 minutes. You see, every time we say that we're going to go shorter, we go longer. How does that happen, Shane?
I don't know. But when you got John Byrne, I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot to cover because there's a lot of influence there.
We need to do like a new artist now.
Yeah, you should do alternate.
You know what I'm saying? I'm saying an artist that has like 5 books. Is there like a guy that's... Flop!
On me, and then it'll take no time.
No, we'll do flops or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many books flops has.
Uh,
Anyway, guys, just to remind you, I don't even know if the super chats are on. They're probably still on for about another half hour, but we do got a tremendous box for January. Let's go ahead. Yeah, not Mr. Burns. And look, even Black Spiders is watching Raw. That I'll tell you about that later. But anyway, we've come to the final segment of the show. We're gonna move as rapid as we can because we always got to talk about the new books that are coming out this week with fresh picks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fresh picks, guys. Notice the cover that's there.
that's
Yes.
awesome.
Guess who's back? Back again.
And a Rivals cover too? Oh man. No one's gonna be able to find that.
I might have to go to the city on Wednesday, even though I'm supposed to stay home on Wednesday. I might go to the city. All right. This week in comic books for January 22nd, 2025, we're going to go over this list. What we're not going to do is we're not going to go through every single book. We selected a few books that we consider to be picks that you might be interested in. We take a look at some variants that we personally like, and I'll talk a little bit about of the breakdown now. So it's going to be a quick one. Not a lot of big keys, but there are some books there if you read comics that you might want to look out for. So let's go ahead and talk about them. But first, gotta give love to Superior Stands. Those are guys that hold my slabs up. I love them. They're great. If you go use the QR code, you'll be helping me out as well by supporting Superior Stands. We love them here, and I guarantee you will love them too. It's new comic book day run. As you can see, we got some new graphics to show you. Fresh off the shelves. This is the amount of titles we have and different types of variants. So this week, there are 91 new titles with 291 variants. That's in an addition, by the way.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of variants, right? There are a total of 10 new titles, 2 number ones. From there will be 48 variants that go along with that. As far as the keys goes, they are considered potential keys. We have 9 potential keys with 2 first appearances that are scheduled. With the keys, we can't guarantee you that there are going to be keys. We can only tell you that they're potentials for being keys. Let's take a look at the publisher breakdown, starting with Marvel Comics. Marvel has 18 new titles this week, 54 variants. DC has 14 titles and 56 variants. So the numbers are off here as far as variants into new titles. So Marvel has more titles, but less variants. And DC has less titles, but more variants.
How is that possible?
It's possible. Over at the other companies, Image has 13 titles with 26 variants. Boom has 5 titles with 28 variants. IDW has 6 titles with 14 variants. My favorite one of them all, Dynamite Entertainment has 3 titles with 39 variants. That's 33 variants per book.
Oh, man.
All right, Dark Horse has 3 titles with 4 variants. As far as the remaining indie titles goes, we have 29 titles with 64 variants. Okay, let's start out with the key watch. Starting with Absolute Wonder Woman #1. This is where Diana makes a sacrifice. So Absolute Wonder Woman #4, I think, has been one of the most solid Wonder Woman stories. And out of all the Absolute books, I think this is the one that most people have been enjoying more than any other.
I absolutely loved issue 3. I thought it was a really great read. I'm really liking the art. I didn't quite attach to it at first, but I really enjoyed issue 3, and I can't wait to read this next issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's first of all, Hayden Sherman's artwork has been great with the storytelling. Why is the writer's name's escaping me? But she's been doing such a great job with the story. I'm with you. It's the best one out of all of them right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you got some couple of covers there. There's multiple covers when it comes to Wonder Woman, Absolute Wonder Woman. But you got the Hayden Sherman cover A. Elizabeth Torque does the cover B, which I really like that cover with the Pegasus. And there's a Pablo's Villalobos cover as well. That's cover F. All of these are cover price. Over at Marvel, Ultimate Spider-Man 13 with Craven's Last Hunt. So this is what they call a love letter to Craven's Last Hunt. So I'm a little concerned at the end result of the story. What's it going to be? If it's going to be a love letter to that story.
Exactly. So I get a little bit worried when they go near like iconic storylines like that. But I mean, I've liked the last few issues, especially of this, like 10, 11 and 12 have been excellent. So I've got my fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's really good. You got cover A, Marco Cicchetto does that one. There's a Benjamin Sue 1 year in foil variant. So that is going to be a foil cover, which I'm curious to see what that looks like. I'm very curious. And there's actually a 1 in 25 Greg Land variant as well. Not bad. I'm not a big Greg Land fan personally myself, but I like the color schemes in this one.
Yeah, it does stand out. I'm looking forward to this book for sure.
Then we have another key watch, which is Power Girl 17. Why is it a key? Power Girl gets a new costume. All right. Yannick Paquette does cover A. I love that cover B by David Ballion. That is so nice.
Does look good, yeah.
Some negative space going on. And it looks like we have an Adam Hughes homage in cover C by Matea de Luis or something like that. De La Lulis. It's kind of
Lulis. I think you're right, Lulis.
Lulis. That's definitely an homage. Maybe not one for one, but it's definitely an homage to Adam Hughes. Okay. Fantastic Four 28. We talked about Fantastic Four a lot earlier when we talked about trending comic books, but we usually don't talk a lot about Fantastic Four when it comes to new comic books. This is one you should pick up for two reasons. Number one, cover A is the prologue to the One World Under Doom event. So that's pretty much the start of this new series. But you're gonna want to pick up that Peach Momoko Marvel Rivals variant feature. Galactica, I think's her name. That's how you say it? Galactica? And Jeff the Shark. That's right. So, yeah. Jeff is coming back, baby.
I wasn't going to get this book, and then my store called me, actually. This is what is great about having a local store. And they had told me, hey, I know you're going to be getting the Doom thing. You might want to consider getting this book because it's going to kind of be the start of it. And I'm like, yep, sign me up. So I don't know even which cover I'm getting, actually. Maybe I'll get the Rivals one. I have no idea.
Well, if you want to get a spec book, the Rivals one is the one you're going to get. If you want to get a book to read, you get cover A. Or the Phil Noto cover.
If I can get the Rivals, I'll get it for sure. And I'll get an A cover, most likely.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely get the Rivals one, this one. Because it's Jeff. You know? I'm sure that book's gonna go up. Be on the lookout for that Rivals book.
That's right.
Superman 22. This one's interesting. You got cover A done by Dang Moore, who's also doing the pencils of the book. There's also a Miko Suyan cardstock variant of Doomsday. Wow, Miko. Ooh, and that's not a exclusive. That's cover B.
Yeah.
And Dave Lapham is doing a 1 in 25. This is Superman and Doomsday teaming up. So
I've been reading this series, and every month, every issue I read, I go, I don't want to get this anymore. And then I read it, and it's great, and I end up getting it again. So I'm looking forward to reading this. And I think I ordered the cardstock the middle one there.
D'Amico. That's a great cover.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, how did that come up? There we go. That went backwards. All right. Try this one more time. There we go. All right. TVA issue number 2. This is the possible first appearance of Doc Clock. Okay. Cover A is Pepe Perez, and if you notice, it's kind of hard to see it from this image, but that is a Gambit from an alternate reality. And also, there's a 1 in 25 Elizabeth Twerk. Elizabeth Twerk. And Phil Noto also does a cover. They're pretty cool covers, to say the least.
Yeah, I did get the first issue, and I didn't mind it. It's another one of those ones that I didn't want to get, but I got, and I did enjoy it. I think Doc Clock, there was a cover of issue 1 that he appeared on, so it's probably his first in the story.
Yeah. Then we have there's another. You see, I told you I was going to have some typos somewhere. Justice League Unlimited issue number 3. This story has been good. This has been good. You got Dan Mora cover there. You got a Gilliam March Raise UV foil variant. That center one. That should be interesting to see. And there's a 1 in 25 Tyler Kirkham cover as well. But this is going to be a good one.
I really enjoyed this series because it does what Justice League, in my mind, should do. It's got different characters interacting with each other. They're trying to solve problems. It's all done in a story. It's got a little bit of an arc to it. Like there's stuff going on in the background that is going to pay off later. So I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it really is. It's and Dan Moore's art. Come on.
Yeah.
One of the best in the business. Here's our indie pick of the week. It's Deadly Tales of Gunslinger Spawn, issue number 2. I realized that the trade dress says Deadly Tales of the Gunslinger, but the title's official name is Deadly Tales of the Gunslinger Spawn.
Interesting.
I took a note of that today. You got cover A, which is Marco Fala. I'm going to say Fela. Sorry, guys. I don't always get the names right. Here's a name I'm definitely going to get right. There's a Mark Spears variant. We looked at this one before, too.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if my store has that cover tomorrow or on Wednesday.
Yeah, it is a cover B, so it is it's open order cover, so it'll be available for anybody to pick up, and I'm sure people will pick it up. Yeah. Here's some eye-catching variants. We got Detective Comics 1093. This is the Juan Ferreira cover. There's also a 1 in 25 black and white edition of it, but I love the colors of this one already. All right. We talked about Absolute Wonder Woman number 4. There's a 1 in 25 Christian Ward cover. I also like this one, how it pops out to me. David Akiyama, Goodness with Harley Quinn 47. She's making pottery with Clayface.
I just got to say the detective run has been excellent. And Juan Ferreira, his interior art is amazing. If you haven't checked it out, he did Spine Tingling. He's been doing Batman and Robin. I don't know if he's doing the interiors of Detective or if he's taken over just to cover, but he is doing the interiors for, I think it starts at issue 6 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I don't read, but I'm buying just because of him. I love his art.
Cool. And just look at this. It's just amazing.
Yeah, so good.
Here's another one. Wolverine Revenge Red Band Edition issue number 4. The 1 in 25 Stephanie Hans homage. These EC homages usually sell out. And being that this is a 1 in 25, this may be one to hunt for.
Yeah.
Also, you have Amazing Spider-Man 66, the Scotty Young variants. They have always been fun. Here's just another one. I can't help it. I love them. Helverine issue number 2. This is the 1 in 25. Mamut Azura cover. Who doesn't love Helverine on skulls?
Yeah, I think that of the three, the one that if you are into any kind of speculation, you're going to want to grab Wolverine Revenge. If you've been reading it, this book has been delayed quite some time, and it actually picks up, I think, years and years after the last issue, so issue 3. And it should be interesting. It's almost going to be like an Old Man Logan type story, but there is some other really interesting covers for it too.
Yeah, and you got interior art by Greg Capullo.
Yeah.
And it's Jonathan Hickman who's writing it, so it's a book to pick up. Another one. These are some more indie books, some eye-catching indie variants. Terminator number 4. This is the David Cousins edition. Now, mind you, this is the 1 in 20 Virgin variant. There is also a trade dress, which is an open order one. But I figured might as well throw in the Virgin one to just show you guys what it looks like. And that is an amazing version of a Terminator.
So good.
Also, Creepshow number 5. This is the Kale New cover. They're cooking a campfire with eyeballs.
They're roasting eyeballs instead of marshmallows.
Whew. And here's another spec book for you guys. This is Power Rangers Prime number 3. This is the 1 per store variant done by Dan Mora. What's the significance, importance of it? Well, besides it being 1 per store, we're featuring a new Power Ranger, but it's Rita Repulsa.
I'll watch for this one tomorrow or Wednesday. I keep
1 per
thinking
store.
it's Tuesday.
1 per store. It might be a hard one, but it's one of those books that we'll probably see it on the list somewhere. Yep. And then finally, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Naruto number 2. If I can't believe it took this long for this issue to show up, but there is a 1 in 50 Edison Neo cover. There's quite a few. This is a book that I guarantee you people are going to pick up because they picked up the first one and they're waiting on it. Also, Powerpuff Girls number 7, the 1 in 10 Kane Hacer cover. I just think it's a great cover. That's a personal opinion of mine. And finally, one of your picks, Phoenix issue number 7 by Franny. That's one heck of a name.
Yeah, I've loved that series so far. It's been really good.
It's a great cover too.
Yeah, and I love that cover. It's really cool.
Okay. And with that said, that completes our list. Wow, we did it. So, guys, we just want to say thank you for watching. We're about to hit 3 hours. It just keeps getting longer, Shane.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody that stuck it out and joined in and watched and commented. Really appreciate it. We really hope that you like this. I certainly have a great time doing it. I think it's a blast.
I agree. And I appreciate you being part of this. You know, to those of you who don't know, I've been searching for a co-host for a while because sometimes it gets hard talking to yourself. But, you know, even though I could pull it off, but I don't want to do that. And it's been great, you know, being able to talk with you and just having you being a part of the show now, now that we have it in this way. You guys who are watching, thank you for sticking it out. Really do appreciate it. You know what? I'm going to have fun today because there's 11 people watching. And I feel generous. What do you think? Should we do something? Should we do something special for them? Let's see here.
Definitely. Anybody that's still here, they probably, if they're probably walking around watching it though, not sitting like I've been for the last few hours.
All right. Let's see here. Let's have fun with the 11 people watching because this is how you do it. I'll do a nice little mystery pack there. And it's hashtag 3 hours. Notice how the numbers are going up. We just went from 10 and now we're at 13. It's like they know. All right. So go ahead, put hashtag 3 hour stream, and we'll do a nice little 5-book mystery pack. I'll do a 5-book mystery pack. And I'll put you into the monthly giveaway. How's that? 2 for the price of 1.
That's a good deal.
You know, I want to see people jump in now, but like, okay, three entries done.
Everybody will be wishing for the stream to go for longer than 3 hours now.
You know, like 3 hours stream. Look at that. Up there goes Joe doing his multiples. No, he didn't do a multiple yet. There's the multiple. We got 12 people watching. Unbelievable. We are not worth. Look, DVH. DVH will be a hard one to ship to. I shipped the package to DVH once. Cost me a pretty penny. Mm-hmm. But he is a channel member, so I got to give DVH much love, man. Especially,
oh yeah,
you know, Papa is probably somewhere out there like watching Raw. DVH is like, oh, Raw hasn't started. Raw has started. All right. You know what? 4 people watching. Should we do it? Should we do it?
I'd give them 1 more minute.
You want to give them a minute? Okay, we'll give them a minute. Let's see. We got 4 entries. You see, that's the thing. The people that are watching right now, they're probably saying to themselves, no, we don't want anybody else to join.
Yeah.
4 entries. That's the best odds we could possibly have in any stream.
I got to show you this while we wait.
Okay. Oh, I got to put you on big screen.
It's not so much about the book. This is the Fabok cover.
Yeah.
But look at the price, and this is Canadian. By the way.
Really?
$40 Canadian for this 9/8 Spawn Batman.
Wow. Look, we got Naysayer. Naysayer, welcome to the chat. You see, they show up. Everybody starts showing up. Imagine they're watching your channel and they try to put their in a comment. It doesn't go, you have to be on Izzy's channel for this one.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, that minute's up. We got 5 entries. Let's do it.
Yep.
Let's see. Who gets it? DV.
You cursed yourself there.
I did it just to myself, right? DVH, I will make sure you get a digital copy of a drawing. Just send them a whole bunch of digital codes. DVH, we'll talk, and we'll put something together for you, because it is something that, you know, shipping across to the UK, it is a little costly, but I want to make sure you get all the love you want, because you deserve it, bro.
That's how I live my life, living in Canada, getting stuff from the States. The shipping is insane.
Well, is the shipping issues fixed over there yet, right? Or no?
Well, Canada Post is back. It's just everything's backlogged, but it's still just the money and then the border. I think when you ship to the UK, you don't have customs issues like you do if you ship to Canada.
Yeah. I see what you mean. All right. Well, guys, with that said, we hit the 3-hour mark. We are done. Oh, look at this. Now he puts his membership. I'll be back after I deal with the freeze. Yeah, it's cold. Guys, we thank you for your time. We appreciate your time. We'll see you next week. Go ahead, watch the replays. You'll see me fix things in the replay. But please go ahead and just like them, do all the stuff, because you guys help me out a lot. We're doing a lot of good things. I'm saying it right now, I'm on the road to 10K. We're at 6,000 right now, 6,200, I think, somewhere around that. And I'm on the road of 10K. If I hit 10K this year, I promise a very big gift. That's gonna be the promise. I'm gonna
be awesome.
So let's do that. Let's get that road to 10K, guys. Until next time, Shane, where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Instagram and YouTube at TenSixtyThree Comics. I do new videos on Wednesdays. I'm part of the Comic Vet show, Show Us What You Got. I'm here on Mondays. I release stuff Sundays as well, and I do a slab in a minute little kind of video that comes out today at 4 o'clock, or was out at 4 o'clock. And yeah, I love it. I really appreciate you having me on here. I have a great time. I love comics. I love talking about them. So thank you.
And thank you once again, guys. We'll see you next time. Until then, Excelsior. Oh, look, I don't have my outro video here. Let's do my outro video. And here we go. See you soon.
I think this is it. I think you're about to go home. Okay. All right. Look, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you!
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you!
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you!
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I never said thank you. And you'll never have to.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I guess I'll see you.